PRT, personal rapid transit. It's always been kind of dismissed as a dream of, I don't know, propeller heads or something. But I have actually become much more intrigued with it recently. The technology is advancing apace. There are now examples, working examples, that can actually be pointed to. That was always the excuse before. It was, well, we don't have anything we can actually analyze. Well, now we do, and more and better is coming. So stay tuned. There will be lots of communications about this at our leisure, more than we can do in this extremely limited time setting here. But yeah, I can't give you a tutorial, but it's really serious technology. So thanks.
Thank you.
Buenos dias, commissioners. Bienvenidos a Watsonville. Had to beat Little Hurst up because it's hard to follow him. Anyways, I'd like to thank Fabian, a community member, a Metro bus rider. A gentleman just spoke a little while ago about the cost to ride the train. Well, a hydrogen bus or the existing bus system now is subsidized. If we would actually charge to make a money profit, I think it'd come out to like $28 to ride the bus. So it's we're talking money, right? Always it's about money. Trail now is about money, spending too much money on the rail, right? Well, think about this. We're going to spend millions of dollars on a trail only, which is a linear park in reality, which really doesn't connect you to anything also, because you still have to get off and ride to get to your destination on city streets, right? So that concept doesn't change. So we're still wasting millions of dollars, which in reality, there'll be less people riding the bike, because you're actually not going to get a lot of people commuting from Watsonville to Santa Cruz on a bike. And if you do, they're going to really be sweaty, tired, and it'll probably take them about an hour and a half. For me, it'd probably take me like 4 hours, right? So I'd always be late for work. So yeah, you have to think about those things, right? But it all comes down to money and growth.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners, alternates, staff, public members. My name is Lowell Hurst. I'm a longtime resident of Watsonville, but I do live in this the Serpa's District 2 supervisor area. I say welcome to Watsonville. I hope that someone will give the traffic report on what they saw coming down today on the other side of the freeway. My guess is it might have been a little plugged up. So while you're here today, spend some money in Watsonville. Hang out after the meeting. Hang out, and there's lots of great restaurants, some of them within walking distance of here. Lots of opportunities. So welcome to Watsonville.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Antonio Rivas. How you doing, all of you? I see familiar faces around it. My whole purpose is, the problem is with our seniors in the city of Watsonville. It is important to me to be able to, receive maybe vouchers for our seniors, especially the low-income seniors, especially the Spanish-speaking seniors in our city. It is important that we be able to do that. I know you have the money. You can be able to give vouchers to some of the seniors. As part of the Senior Commission, and also in the city of Watsonville, it is important that I see a lot of, the budgets for our seniors and the low income. They need those vouchers. It is important that my recommendation is to look into it and see if we can be able to provide some of those vouchers for our seniors. Thank you, and welcome to our city of Watsonville. Take care.
Seeing no one else, do we have anybody online?
Yes, we do. Michael Saint.
Good morning, Commissioners. Michael St. Aptos, resident. I would like to thank Executive Director Sarah Christensen and Amin Abu of Capital Projects for meeting with Rick Longinati and myself last month. The kind of the theme there was we kind of all realized that the Ox Lane project is something that will not relieve congestion or fix the issue. So now we have the Zippert study of a train on the rail corridor costing $4.3 billion that is not capable of reducing congestion due to low ridership forecasts. Why aren't we setting our goals higher and actually finding and studying a transportation system that actually relieves congestion and improves our lives? Here is the question I asked Sarah, Executive Director. Why wouldn't you want to explore a new technology, study an alternative that reduces congestion, reduces environmental harm, reduces VMT, increases safety, and will be affordable to build and affordable to ride? PRT needs to be seriously looked at as an alternative to the train. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Helmer.
Good morning. In May of 2024, Supervisor McPherson requested speed surveys to be taken on Highway 9 to reduce the speed limit. In May of 2025, Caltrans reported to you at your Capitola meeting the results of their speed surveys. I think it was quite a shock to all of you to hear that they are not recommending, but planning to raise the speed limit between Paso Tiempo off-ramp and the Fishhook curve in the southbound direction heading into Santa Cruz from 55 miles an hour to 60 miles per hour. The city of Santa Cruz was given an opportunity to hold a public hearing to receive public input on this idea. At least 5 of you at your May meeting spoke to the logic behind such a move. Today, there's a tanker truck with 8,000 gallons of fuel burning on 17. Last week, 2 people were killed on 17. I really question the city of Santa Cruz's decision not to hold the public hearing.
Thank you.
Bernie Gomez.
Yeah, buenos dias, good morning, commissioners. This is my first time attending an RTC meeting, and I've always wondered, what these were, and doing a little bit of research and a little bit of conversation with folks. They directed me here to just provide this public comment that I want to say today. Thinking about, accessible transportation and infrastructure to the only road that provides access to the beach in Watsonville, which is West Beach. While people are thinking about the rail and trail, I know that's a big topic. I really want for this commission to also think about supporting Watsonville residents, right, South County residents with a healthy road to the beach, with the pedestrian safe road with sidewalks and stuff like that, that potentially allows for a bus route to go to the beach back and forth. So I look forward to continue this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patrice.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Patrice Boyle. I'm calling from Santa Cruz and Lower Seabright. I just want to urge the commissioners to continue looking at opening the Murray Street Rail Bridge for pedestrians and bicycles. The merchants in Lower Seabright and in the harbor need all of the access that is possible that can be made. So I appreciate you just keeping this on your radar and making it happen as soon as possible. This is a 3-year project that we're looking at, and so it's a 3-year emergency if we'd like to get back into non-emergency mode. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You have no other speakers.
Thank you. I'll close that up and I'll move on to 22, no, sorry. Skipping over the consent agenda. It's a consent agenda. Anybody have any questions on the consent agenda? There you go.
And then you talk right into the mic.
Okay. I have a concern about item number 9, which is the Go Bike program. Commissioners will remember at the last meeting, I expressed a concern about bikes going, that the commission was subsidizing bikes that could go 28 miles an hour on bike paths, and I think that's too fast. I understand that the commission subsidy money has been expended, but we're going to hopefully get more. I think it's a great program helping people get electric bikes. But I think we should, my recommendation would be to change or add a direction that the policies for granting the subsidies be changed to require that e-bikes only be subsidized that go up to 20 pedal assisted up to 20 miles an hour, and that we no longer would provide subsidies for bikes that could go 28 miles an hour. So I would just like to add that as a direction to that.
That's a good suggestion, and let me just go out to the public, and then we'll bring it back, and you can do that motion. Would the public like to weigh in on the consent agenda? See none here. Do you have anybody online?
We do not.
I'll bring it back, and Commissioner Schifrin.
So I would move the consent agenda with the additional direction on item number 9 that with future funding of the Go Bike program, the commission not subsidize electric bikes that would go over 20 miles per hour, and that they'd all have to be pedal assisted.
Go ahead, Commissioner DeSerpa.
So I've been following the state pilot that's in Marin County right now very closely because of all the complaints that come into my office in District 2 regarding safety issues and younger, children, or teenagers, I should say, that are on e-bikes with throttles. There's severe concern in the accidents and injuries to those children have gone up like 300% in the last 2 years. We can't do anything about it right now because the state law prohibits anybody from doing anything about it until the conclusion of the pilot that is currently running in Marin County. So I don't know, Sarah, if you want to speak to this or if you have some staff who could step up, but I'm not sure if we can even implement parameters on this particular funding.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner DeSerpa and Commissioner Schifrin. We have been looking into this issue quite a bit. We have an informational item on consent to address the questions we received at the last meeting. We think it is actually feasible to limit the subsidies because we're not restricting, we're not, passing any kind of law that would restrict. It's just the subsidy program, which we have discretion over. There's nothing out there that's preventing us from doing that. So the request by Commissioner Schifrin is possible.
Thank you. Then I would be very happy to second that motion if it's not unreasonable to staff.
So it's been first and second. Any other comments? Seeing none, can I get a commissioner vote? Roll call.
Commissioner Jensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Keeley?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Montesino?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Schifrin?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSerpa?
Aye.
Commission Alternate
Ritter.
Aye. Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner Leonor?
Yes.
Commissioner Quitos Carter?
Aye.
You have a unanimous vote.
Thank you. With that, we're going to go on to 22, which is Commissioner's Report. Any commissioners have any report? Commissioner Ritter.
Thank you. I don't necessarily have a report, but I did want to introduce myself. My name is Jillian Ritter. I am the first district alternate to the RTC. I was appointed to this role in June and joined Supervisor Koenig's office as staff in May. So I haven't been with the office very long, but I am a lifelong District 1 resident of Santa Cruz County. Additionally, I am no stranger to county work. I spent 2016 to 2022 working directly with the Board of Supervisors and have spent time working in a variety of county departments, notably the Parks Department when the rail trail project moved from county CDI to the Parks Department. So I do have some history and background knowledge of that as well. Thank you so much, and I look forward to working with all of you and continuing to serve the county.
And welcome, Commissioner Ritter. Anybody else? Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, just report out that the ad hoc committee for the encroachments along and easements along the Santa Cruz Branch Rail line, we had our second meeting on August 25th. We're continuing to get information and assess what our options are to provide relief for the mobile homeowners and sort of what sort of mitigations would be appropriate in that situation if we move forward with it. So.
Oh, thank you for taking, the committee for taking that time. I know it's extra duties on the sign. Anybody else? Commissioner DeSerpa?
I attended the Coastal Rail Coordinating Council down in Los Angeles and heard reports on the planning that's going into building out the infrastructure for the Olympics. So that was very interesting to hear about all the South County projects that are happening. I was also privileged to go down to San Bernardino, where I got to actually see the hydrogen train that is proposed here in Santa Cruz and got to get on it, talk to the engineers, and see the build out of the, what do you call it? Not the workshop, but the place where the train goes into to be repaired and serviced. So that was very, very interesting. And I was with colleagues from Monterey County, San Luis Obispo County, and Santa Barbara. So thank you.
Did they let you drive that train?
They didn't actually move the train off the track. We just got to get in it, and it was about 100 degrees, so it was very nice to get in an air-conditioned unit. Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Jensen. Sorry.
No problem. I just want to take a minute and thank Executive Director Sarah Christensen for her support, and also Commissioner Manu Koenig and Kim DeSerpa for helping with the closures of the potential ramps at Bay and Porter in Capitola with the Art and Wine Festival coming up. It was scheduled for closure a couple days before, and so we appreciate all the support, and Capitola does. It's a big economic boost for the community, and so we appreciate their support and willingness to have some flex in that. So thanks again for that.
Thank you. And I'd like to report that recently I just came back from a trip to my hometown, which is Irapuato, Guanajuato, Mexico. And, interestingly enough, it's a city of over 400,000 people, and they've had roundabouts for many, many years. And what was interesting to me that that they were canceling some or putting lights or stop signs. So that got me thinking about, transportation aspects and how we need to be flexible, because projects take so long that by the time they get done and by the time they get functioning, sometimes they need to change. So that's, what I got out of, my trip in transportation. So thank you with that. So we're going to go on to 23, proclamations for a week without driving.
Thank you, Chair Montecito, for placing this item on today's agenda in advance of the Week Without Driving beginning later this month. The RTC, Santa Cruz Metro, and the Community Traffic Safety Coalition and the County Office of Development and Infrastructure are announcing. Thank you. Yes, good. Okay. These agencies are announcing their participation with activities and events planned for the week. These include the RTC's How to Use the Hazard Report webinar on September 29th, the countywide celebration at the Capitola Mall on Tuesday, September 30th, and the RTC Challenge contest that runs through the week. I also know some of our commissioners and staff have already signed up for a week without driving, and there is a county and local city proclamation scheduled for this month, so thank you. And Metro Board members are joining Supervisor Hernandez and Watsonville Mayor Orozco on Route 78 for a ride around Watsonville on Wednesday, October 1st. So please let me know your week without driving plans so we can share them with our community. Access to mobility is a fundamental part of public health. And our duty as commissioners is to build a transportation system that connects all of us so we can reach educational and employment opportunities, medical services, grocery stores, county and state parks, and visit with our families and friends safely. And this is challenging for those who do not have a car. So during the week, I invite everyone to take a trip without a car. Walk if you can, ride your bike, take the bus, and see how important it is to have a sidewalk, a crosswalk, a ramp, a protected bike lane, or a bus shelter. And when we drive, it's simple. Pay attention so all of us can make it to our destination safely. Every decision this commission makes affects the ability of non-drivers to go places. The Week Without Driving presents a 7-day opportunity for us to walk, roll, cycle, and ride with our neighbors to give us a better understanding of their journey. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. With that, any commissioner have any comments? No? I'm going to go out to the public. Would the public like to weigh on this item of the agenda?
A good marketing pitch. Unfortunately, this organization has failed on providing the infrastructure that allows our community to do this. We have the coastal corridor that goes from Watsonville to Davenport that has sat there for a decade. And people on this board think that it should stay as an old railroad track, no matter what. And those same people have their trail in Santa Cruz. But Watsonville has nothing. Aptos has nothing. Did you look at the traffic today? This board, because of your policies and your continued policies that we hear today, are creating a barrier that allows your initiative to be successful. It's embarrassing. I've been involved with this, first got involved with this organization 25 years ago. Been coming to this for 15 years. Please be more proactive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Brett Garrett. I just want to propose that a week without driving should probably include some road closures. For example, we've had events in the past where West Cliff Drive was closed to traffic and open for pedestrians and bikes to just use the whole road. I was in New York recently, and on a Saturday morning, they had closed 13 miles from the Brooklyn Bridge all the way up to the other end of Manhattan. Park Avenue, a large portion of Park Avenue was closed. It was a 13-mile stretch that was closed to traffic for 3 Saturday mornings in a row that they did in New York City. So if they can do that in New York City, we can do it here in Santa Cruz County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Aurelio Gonzalez, City of Watsonville. Great idea, right? We should all jump on it. But one of the problems that exists here in the city of Watsonville and probably other cities like Capitola, but Capitola really just wants cars. But for the city of Watsonville, we need to be more mobile, right? So we need our infrastructure. We need better infrastructure, safer infrastructure. It's nice to have a trail to ride on, but you know, to get to work, we need to have infrastructure. We need to be able to ride safely on our streets, right? So that's RTC Measure D. Those fundings can go towards that and help our community better be mobile and use transportation in a better sense because we're not all just going to jump on a trail now and write a trail just to write it, right? We're going to go to work. We're going to go do functions. We're going to go to board meetings. So Measure D funding is great, and I think somehow we need to continue to fund this and move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, anybody online?
Michael Sate. Mr. Sate?
Yeah, right here, just waiting for the unmute. I also wanted to comment after the commissioner's report really quickly about Commissioner Montesino's comment about traffic circles, and they're going back to lights and stop signs. Well, we can do the same thing here with the train. I mean, the train basically is obsolete. It's been tried everywhere, and it just doesn't carry the number of people that's necessary for Santa Cruz County. So that's a make change. Also, the young lady afterwards, I guess she was one of the Metro reps, talking about getting to specific places all the time, whether it's doctors' places, grocery stores, all that kind of stuff. Well, the best traffic system for that is a personal rapid transit. A train's not going to get you to those specific places. A bus will, but it's in traffic and it's a lot slower, and people don't ride the bus much because they don't like it, period. So,
Thank you.
For your time.
Jim Helmer?
Yes. Yes, if you can hear me.
Yes.
Recently, Caltrans repaved 2.7 miles of Highway 9, basically between Felton and Ben Lomond. In doing so, there was an opportunity to install a crosswalk at Willow Brook and Locust Lane midway in the project. This crosswalk is called out in the Complete Streets Study, the PID, for Caltrans improvements.
I have a point of order, Mr. Chairman. If you want to reopen oral communications, I think you should reopen oral communications. Commission reports are usually a time when they're very brief, if any, commission reports. The public comments now have really drifted pretty far from commission reports.
Yeah, could you
I would like to wrap up.
keep it on topic on the resolution that's before us?
Yes, had the crosswalk been installed, it would have connected to the two very heavily used transit stops by people that are in a 40-bed county health agency facility.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have no other speakers.
With that, I'm going to bring back to the resolution at hand.
I have one more comment.
Go ahead, Commissioner Downey.
Thank you. I wanted to add a comment from the Community Traffic Safety Coalition staff. They would like to express their gratitude for the RTC's Week Without Driving proclamation, garnering community support and involvement in this national and now local movement will help move our county towards safe, accessible, and equitable transportation for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to make the motion?
I will move.
Second.
So then move in second. Is this the resolution?
What is the resolution? It's a commission report. Right?
Commissioner Schifrin, we're on item number 23, proclamation for a week without driving.
Oh, I thought we do. So we passed commissioner reports?
Yes.
Okay. So it's been moved to approve the proclamation?
Yes, it's been moved in second. So can I get a vote?
Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Keeley? Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Montesino?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Schifrin?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSerpa?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Ritter?
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner Downing?
Aye.
Commissioner Leonor?
Yes.
Commissioner Quitos Carter?
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you. So now we're going to move on to 24, which is Director's Report.
Thank you, Chair Montesino. I have a PowerPoint. Just give me 1 second to get it up. a bit of a long one this morning, so I apologize ahead of time.
Could we get it on this screen too? Okay.
Is it showing up on the screens for you, commissioners? Okay, great. Okay, next slide, please. I wanted to highlight the Measure D annual report for fiscal year 2024. It's now available on the RTC website, and it's provided as part of item 14 on the consent agenda. From inception through June 2024, which is only about a quarter of the life of Measure D revenues, almost $125 million in collected funds have been spent on local roads, transit and paratransit, highway improvements, rail preservation and studies, and the Coastal Rail Trail. The Volunteer Taxpayer Oversight Committee worked with staff to review audits and expenditure reports from all recipient agencies and produce the annual report. The report highlights projects and confirms that the expenditures were consistent with the ordinance and the expenditure plan. Next slide. The Measure D expenditure plan ambitiously lists projects that cost more than the tax will ever collect, with the intention of the RTC and local agencies using Measure D as leverage to secure outside grants to pay for projects. This stretches our local funds much farther than the cost to our residents. Using Measure D as a grant match and to start the early stages of project development, over $350 million in outside grants that may not have otherwise been likely available locally have been secured for regional projects through fiscal year 24. And the report lists the largest of these grants. I have a few up on the slide, and if you go to the next slide, there's more. Thank you. Staff would like to thank all the local transportation agencies who produce fiscal and project reports in order to allow the Oversight Committee and the public to verify that Measure D was working according to the voters' intentions and is successfully delivering on what was promised to the voters in 2016. Next slide. I have an update on the zero emission passenger rail and trail project. Between June 12th and August 22nd, staff conducted robust community outreach to receive input on milestone 4 of the Zero Emission Passenger Rail and Trail project. The draft project concept report, which highlights of what we heard, with highlights of what we've heard on the screen here, a couple bullet points of some of the input we received. Outreach included a virtual open house, 9 office hour times both virtually and in person in Watsonville and in Santa Cruz, virtual community informational session focused on the conceptual station design options, partner, agency, and stakeholder meetings, and tabling at a number of events throughout the community over the summer. Next slide. The next steps for this project is we are compiling the community feedback received during the Milestone 4 outreach period and preparing the full cost estimate for the trail project, addressing requests made by the commission from the last commission meeting on August 7th, and preparing the final concept report. The final project concept report is expected to be shared with the community as soon as it's available, which could be as early as October. Next slide. We had a request at the last commission meeting to share the Traffic Safety Coalition crash report. There's a QR code on the screen, and the web page is sctrafficsafety.org for those interested in this report. Several people have asked for it, so wanted to share one more time. Next slide. We already talked a little bit about the Go Bike program a little bit earlier. We, in response to last commission meeting's request, have included an item on the consent agenda with more information about that program. Next slide. I have an update on the Murray Street Bridge project that the city of Santa Cruz is working on. On August 26th, the city council approved a motion to direct their staff to work with the RTC to create a temporary pedestrian and bicycle path on the RTC-owned railroad bridge adjacent to the Murray Street Bridge over the harbor. And at the council meeting, city staff outlined 4 options that were studied to create a pedestrian path on the rail bridge, which is considered an active rail line. Of the 4 options, the 3,000-foot-long, 8-foot-wide intermediate path composed of compacted base rock was the option considered most viable by city staff. The path would be placed on top of the existing tracks and cost roughly $1.7 million to install and ultimately remove. Next steps for the city is to move forward with implementing this temporary path would include developing engineered plans and determining regulatory compliance. Plans would then be shared with the RTC and with the railroad operator, Progressive Rail or St. Paul and Pacific Railroad, for review and approval. The city of Santa Cruz has decided not to proceed with the temporary rail shuttle along the RTC-owned rail corridor. That was another request by the commissioners at the last special meeting on August 7th. This shuttle, the intent was to provide connectivity via a rail shuttle between Seabright and the Upper Harbor area. The Murray Street Bridge project, from what I understand, is very constrained with funding, and a rail shuttle would cost far more than converting the rail bridge to a temporary biking and walking path. And so that's why the city decided not to move forward with the temporary rail shuttle option. Next slide. Staff consulted with the City of Santa Cruz staff regarding Commission Alternate Schifrin's request to complete the construction of the City of Santa Cruz Coastal Rail Trail Segments 8 and 9 project by the end of 2026. A status update on the project is provided as part of item 27 on the regular agenda that you will hear about shortly. The project is, the status of the project generally, it's at the beginning of the final design phase and does not have sufficient funding to complete the design at this time. Project development activities, including final design, right-of-way, and environmental permitting, take time to resolve, and therefore completing construction by the end of 2026 is not feasible. More information to come on the subsequent item about the Coastal Rail Trail Program. Next slide. One more follow-up from the last commission meeting. Staff, so the request was to seek emergency funding from the California Transportation Commission to address the temporary path issue and the connectivity over the harbor. So staff requested CTC to call an emergency meeting to allocate the funds to the temporary conversion of the railroad bridge over the harbor to a walking and biking path. This is very rare, but there's 1 or 2 instances in the past that I'm aware of, one of which was earlier this year when the Lausanne rail corridor disaster occurred in the spring. During that disaster, the CTC called an emergency meeting and allocated about $9 million to the relief of that failing rail line that was falling into the ocean, essentially. So we made a similar request to address, the question and the request by Commissioner Alternate Schifrin, and the CTC has declined our request for emergency funding and to hold an emergency meeting. Next slide. Commissioner DeSerpa already touched on this a little bit, but the Coast Rail Coordinating Council was invited to attend a tour of the vehicle maintenance facility and the new hydrogen-powered rail vehicle for Metrolink's Aero service in Southern California. This provides connection from downtown San Bernardino to Redlands University via multiple unit rail vehicle. The Aero service currently operates a diesel multiple unit, but testing of a new hydrogen-powered multiple unit vehicle, or ZMU, on the line has been ongoing for some time, and fare revenue service is about to commence. To operate the ZMU, San Bernardino County Transportation Authority is retrofitting the existing maintenance facility to allow for maintenance of the ZMU. Commissioner DeSerpa, who serves as the alternate on the Coast Rail Coordinating Council, and the RTC Associate Transportation Engineer, Riley Gerbrandt, toured the new facility and received a presentation from Metrolink, the retrofit contractor, and the ZEMU manufacturer. Topics covered by the ZEMU presentation included features, adaptability, capabilities, fueling systems, and operations of this new facility. And just one more plug for the Coast Rail Coordinating Council. We are still seeking volunteers to backfill the position. And thank you to Kimberly DeSerpa for holding it down as the alternate in the meantime until we fill the permanent position. Next slide. I've got, this is the last slide, I promise. So staffing updates, we have filled the Director of Internal Services position. So join me in welcoming Nisha Singh, who's a seasoned professional with over 16 years of experience in public sector leadership and financial management, spanning city, town, and county government. Most recently, she served as the finance manager for the city of Los Altos, where she led comprehensive financial operations, budgeting, and reporting initiatives. Nisha holds both an MBA and a BBA in finance and brings extensive expertise in public budgeting, audits, payroll, financial reporting, and enterprise financial systems. She's known for her strategic mindset, attention to detail, and ability to implement practical solutions that enhance operational efficiency and fiscal transparency. So thank you, and join me in welcoming Nisha to our team. One last update on the Transportation Demand Management Conference. We sometimes we participate in out-of-state events like this. This is a big deal for our agency to go to Portland, Oregon for the TDM conference. We have our planning technician, Sierra Top, who will be attending this year in October. Ms. Top's work assignments include our TDM programs, including Cruz 511, Go Santa Cruz County, and Go Bike programs. And her participation will be really essential in helping us continue to innovate and move those programs forward. So that concludes my director's report. Thank you very much. Here for questions.
Commissioner questions? Commissioner Clark.
Yeah, good morning, Director Christensen. Thank you for that report. And perhaps you're going to cover this later, and if you are, that's great. But just a couple questions on this temporary path for the to mitigate the Murray Street Bridge situation here. So the 1.7 million is for installation and removal of this temporary path. My question is around both funding and then time and, ballpark timeline for what that would look like. Where will the funding come from, or where do we anticipate it, since we've been denied, our emergency request from the CTC? So where do we anticipate funding, and what do we anticipate a realistic timeline on that?
I see some, I'm looking behind me because I'm trying to find the city staff. They would probably be a little more equipped to answer these questions about timeline and funding.
They look very eager to answer, so. Yeah.
Very eager. Come on up. This is Matt Starkey. He's the transportation manager for the city of Santa Cruz. Welcome, Matt.
Good morning, Matt Starkey, transportation manager. Happy to be here. Our plan is currently to apply for the RTC block grant program to seek that additional funding. We're also contacting our state and federal legislative representatives to see if there's any additional funding available there.
All right. And in terms of timeline, do we have any kind of a ballpark of what is a realistic timeline for this?
Our first step is to work through the initial design of it, and we're going to begin that with our contractor. We also need to come back to the RTC and Progressive Rail and work through the design issues on the bridge they've outlined to us in a letter. So I would expect design to take at least through this year. We need to hit that funding deadline this December, and then construction couldn't begin until next year at the earliest.
Excellent. All right, thanks so much.
Any other commissioners? Seeing none, anybody online?
We have no speakers.
Okay. Now I'm going to go out to the community. Go ahead.
Hi, Brian Peoples with Trail Now. Just as a reminder, Guy Preston, who was former RTC executive director, knew this problem was coming. He came to this board and asked to implement a plan. Actually, Guy lives in Seabright. He knew it. You failed on this. You need to accept that you failed it and accept that. It's sad how bad you done on this Murray Bridge, and you all need to accept that. In the city of Santa Cruz as well, you put Roaring Camp over the community, and that's where we're at today. So hopefully you can get this resolved, but at the end of the day, the report has come back. Those tracks cannot be used. All 22 trestles can't be used. There's no reason to keep the old rails. It's like, yeah, they're not coming back, just like payphones are not coming back. Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners and staff. Thank you again for all your hard work. I was in your shoes yesterday as a representative of LAFCO, so I appreciate your position. I just want to say that spending $1.7 million to build a temporary trail that actually we really don't even understand all of the toxins involved to both when you have to remove it doesn't seem like a good investment to me, especially when, and by the way, I was just went over there and walked that segment yesterday, and it's actually passable by pedestrians, although I know not legally. The real issue is people who drive cars. Those are the folks that can't get access, and that's the biggest issue that we need to deal with to be able to address the challenges of those businesses. And I think in 6 months it's supposed to open up. So anyway, thank you for your time, and I hope that we will instead take that 1.7 million and put that towards the future trail that's going to be fully designed and already approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Marta Belayich here in District 1. I find it mind-boggling that it's so difficult for you to give access to these businesses on Murray Street Bridge. $1.7 million on an inactive railroad, yet RTC has no problem having kids cross the railroad trestle here on Watsonville. So kids cross this trestle all the time. Active railroad. In fact, Sarah Christensen said it was a very active railway. So why the inconsistency? Safety for kids doesn't matter, but these pedestrians here for businesses, you are actually drawing a hard line in there. So think about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Aurelio Gonzalez, City of Watsonville. I know I don't live in that area. The impact is heartfelt in reality because of the businesses. But again, this is a shortfall from the city of Santa Cruz. They didn't plan it properly. Now they're trying to throw it on you guys to use infrastructure that wasn't supposed to be used in that fashion, right? You're going to use $1.7 million to do a temporary bridge device that a blind person won't be able to cross. A person in a handicapped wheelchair won't be accessible to it because it's gravel, right? So there you're already shortfalling some part of the community, and it's going to be not fair for everybody. So I would take that 1.7 million if the city of Santa Cruz gets it and give it to the business people better, instead of investing it in this temporary bridge and then having to take it out again. It's foolish. It's foolish money. The business people are the ones who need the money, and they should have really planned this if this was a 3-year project.
Thank you.
We have some speakers online.
Go ahead.
Michael Saint.
Yeah, commissioners, a little bit surprised about putting the temporary bridge up there. I would think some form of a trolley, since the tracks are already in there. I'm not sure the difference in costs, but I think it's an excellent possibility to actually start showing people what something on the corridor could actually do for them and be a very positive experience for them riding in some type of trolley or light train vehicle. So a little disappointed with that, because you are trying to get people that in cars to get over to the businesses. The people that walk and bike maybe are just going past that area to some other location instead of stopping to have something to eat or shop there. So maybe that could be reconsidered. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin McGuire.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Yeah, so if you parked at 17th or took your car from 17th to the other side of Seabright, it's about a 6-minute drive. Building a temporary bridge for people to walk and bike helps the continuity of getting one side to the other or parking and walking there in an easy to access path. So it's not that big of an investment. What we need to also understand is you try to continue with this train. Sarah Christensen said that this is an ambitious project, very expensive for our community. But if we prioritize this project over other needs, we'll deliver. What are those other needs? Can we define that? Is that putting the train above roads, above schools, above public safety? What other needs are going to be left out if we continue down this runaway train? It's time to bank the rail and build the trail.
Thank you.
We have no other speakers.
You know, I just like to say thank you for that report. I think one of the things that that we should celebrate is, you know, former Commissioner McPherson used to say, is thank the voters for Measure D and all the investment. I mean, just from one glimpse at 125 million invested, and we secured, you know, matching grants for 350 million. That's astonishing. That's, you know, and it's been, you know, invested in our community. It's continued to invest in our community. And we should highlight more our, you know, at every project, we should put that out to the community, because in the future, we're going to have to go out to another sales tax, and we need to project those where the money has been spent. Commissioner Schifrin.
Thank you. I think I'm starting to understand how this microphone system works, that only one person can speak at a time. Is that actually the way it is? Every city is different. I want to thank staff, the director, for the staff report as well. I appreciate following that you followed up on the request to try to expedite segments 8 and 9 and try to get emergency funding. I think we have to try to do whatever we can. I did want to clarify that, as I understand segment 8, that is possible to be done in 2026 from the report that we got from the city, and maybe they could, their staff could clarify that. I understand that given the complexities of and the financial situation with segment 9, that isn't possible, but segment 8 is pretty short. It did sound like it could be done, and the city was trying to move it forward. Is that correct?
Ooh, now I'm learning how to use the system as well. Yeah, thank you for that question. Our plan is to attempt to move segment 8 forward. I don't think we could be done in calendar year 2026, just to be specific. Our plan would be to start after the summer busy season on Beach Street. So we'd start maybe late fall of 2026 and then wrap up by spring of 2027 if we were to move, segment 8 forward in advance.
So, but construction would start in 2026. It just wouldn't be completed till 2027. Am I understanding that?
That's correct.
Thank you. With that, we're going to move on to our next item, which is Caltrans report.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Again, Scott Eads, District Director. I wish I could be there with you in person, but I couldn't have pulled that off today with other conflicts. So pleasure to be here virtually. I have a few items that I wanted to provide today. First is just acknowledging that there was an unexpected closure on Santa Cruz 17 this morning. It sounds like there was an overturned truck blocking all southbound lanes. All lanes were initially shut down by CHP. We've been working with them, and as it stands now, from my latest information, there is one travel lane open in each direction. We've shifted southbound traffic onto the northbound lane, one of the northbound lanes. So now we have one travel lane open in each direction, and they're working to clear the incident. Also wanted to highlight that we have a new Caltrans director. This may have been noted before, but Director Dina L. Twanzi is now our Caltrans director permanently. She is replacing our previous director, Tony Tavares, who retired or left state service in May. And then Dina, she has previously served as the District 4 director, which is the San Francisco Bay Area region. So she's familiar with Santa Cruz and in fact was over the adjoining district that shared part of Santa Cruz 17. And then upcoming event that I wanted to highlight, the Arthritis Foundation is putting on the 2025 California Coast Classic Bike Tour. The event will be having cyclists traveling from San Francisco to the Ventura, so along the coast, between Saturday, September 6th and Friday, September 12th. It'll be passing through Santa Cruz County this Saturday and Sunday. So please be aware and mindful of those folks that are going to be traveling through the county. And then I wanted to, the last thing that I wanted to highlight is several efforts that are under construction right now. So there's a lot happening on the highways across Santa Cruz County. We're looking forward to completing all these investments, but we certainly recognize that there are travel disruptions as these projects are under construction. We try to do the best we can to minimize those disruptions, but we're working within constrained area in many cases. And so we're trying to balance getting the project done with getting people through while we're still working on those improvements. So a few things I'd like to highlight is on Santa Cruz 1, Highway 1, there's a full overnight closure tonight. Between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. This would be northbound Highway 1 between 41st and SoCal. And then detour signs will be in place to divert traffic onto the local street systems via SoCal Drive. And then probably local knowledge of this, but the three of the 4 Park Avenue ramps are currently closed. We expect to reopen those tomorrow morning, first thing. And the southbound off-ramp will remain closed as work continues, but 3 of the 4 will be reopened. And then the long-term closure of ramps at Bay Porter has been postponed. So the southbound on-ramp at Bay Porter is permanently open. However, the others will eventually be temporarily closed. And then there's an emergency drainage and retaining wall project on the northbound lane of Highway 9 between San Lorenzo and Prospect. And this is partway between Brookdale and Boulder Creek. There's an alternating one-way traffic signal control that was put in place to allow construction there. We understand and know that when we first initiated the signal at that location, there were some disruptions and there were some issues with the timing. Construction got out there as quickly as they could and adjusted that. So we also have flaggers on standby to take over during commute hours if necessary. And then I want to just highlight one last project, and that is there's an additional SHOP-funded drainage, erosion control, and paving project on Highway 9 that has just been authorized for construction. It involves work between Willowbrook Drive and the northern junction with Highway 236. Work involves slope repair, retaining wall construction, culvert replacement, and roadway pavement. And it will largely, the work effort will largely occur outside of the peak travel hours. And travelers should expect between 5 and 10 minutes of delay. And then also when we're constructing those improvements, we're allocating space for bicycle and pedestrians to travel through the construction zone. More information is coming, public information with our news releases. So if you haven't already subscribed to our news releases, please do so because we provide quite a bit of information on projects like this. That concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions for Commission? Seeing none, I'm going to go out to the public. I'd like to weigh in the Caltrans report.
Hi, Aurelio Gonzalez, City of Wattsville. Yeah, my question is for the Green Valley sidewalk. I seen that it's in a rapid progressive movement on the shop information. And I just want to know the status of where we're at with that, since obviously the squirrels continue to build their homes and their tunnels. And it might be affecting the whole roadway.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody online?
We have no speakers.
With that, thank Caltrans for their hard work. And I know Highway 1 construction brings a lot of headaches and complaints, but done it well, a lot of good job and a lot of hard work at night, so that helps. So thank you. With that, I'm going to close that up and move on to 26, which is Highway 1 State Park to Bay and Porter Auxiliary Lanes and Bus and Shoulder Project Amendment to the Construction Cooperative Agreement with Caltrans.
Good morning, Chair Montesino and Commissioners. Amin Abu Amara, the Director of Capital Projects at the RTC. Over the last few years, the RTC proudly have been delivering on the Highway 1 corridor improvements, bus and shoulder, auxiliary lanes, and we're almost done with segment 1 from the Soquel Drive to 41st Avenue, 41st Street. And we are in the middle of construction for segment 2 from Bay Porter to State Park Drive. And we have the great partnership really of all involved, the great partnership of the public, the great partnership of our State Highway, Caltrans. They are administering, have been administering the segment 1 and segment 2. And we have the great partnership as well of the county and the cities around us. So the construction projects are really take a toll on everybody involved as well. As Director Eid segued to what he was saying, basically there is a lot of complaints that come. We, along with our designers and the construction team, we try and manage complaints. We try and manage traffic. We do that with the utmost attention to safety, first of all, and of course, timeline and budget. However, in construction projects, it's there's a lot of sometimes unforeseen situations, a lot of infield conflicts that come along in the construction, and you probably wouldn't have any chance to, as much as you do with great designers we have and all that, there's sometimes these conflicts happen. And what we are in front of you now is also another request for additional contingency funds for segment 2 because of some situations that we have faced in segment 2 starting back in April of 2024, and we're almost at halfway. Successfully managed to, with the help of Caltrans and our designers, successfully managed to get it to this stage, almost 50% done. We're almost going to be done in the fall of 2026. That's the schedule. And along with that, we have identified many hurdles, and we have come across them and solve them. For that, I have our Caltrans partners, Tim Lang, he's the Chief of Construction for the Northern Caltrans District 5, as well as Madeline Jacobson, she's our project manager, and they are gladly here to present to you the update for segment 2. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Madeline Jacobson, the Caltrans Project Manager for the Highway 1 Bus on Shoulder projects, spanning the full limits of the corridor, but this morning we're speaking with you about the segment between Bay, Porter, and State Park Drive. And presenting alongside me,
Tim Lang.
Thanks, Tim. So we have you can go to the next slide. A brief presentation this morning that includes sharing some construction progress updates, along with a summary of some of the key project challenges, risks, savings, and the construction capital funding needs before you. Next slide. So as Amin mentioned, to date, construction progress on this segment is about 45% complete. We've finished completion of Stage 1A, which is described for you on the slide. And the Capitola Bridge is about 90% complete. Additionally, I'm sure you've seen many of the sound walls and retaining walls that have been completed along the corridor, as well as an overhead sign foundation. So I have a couple pictures on the next few slides just to demonstrate. This is the Capitola Bridge. You can see the old structure in 2023 and the new structure as of August 2025. This is featuring a retaining wall constructed along the corridor, just a visual reference of the progress. And then here's a sound wall that's been underway. So Tim is going to cover the bulk of this, but the crux of what we're presenting with you this morning is the financial needs of the project. And so we've divided it into these 5 critical categories of what's been going on the corridor. And so this slide gives you a summary, but I'm really just going to turn it to Tim to provide the overview of each of these items.
Okay, so digging into the details here, the first of the categories is the revision of stage construction 1A. Initially, the contract 1A calls for the complete closure of the entire Bay Porter Avenue interchange, which includes all 4 ramps. When the contractor put their work plan together, they opted to close them all at one time for an extended period of time. Looking at that work plan, we decided it wasn't a viable option due to significant public impacts. At that point, the stage construction had to be revised, so backing up, changing the staging and allowing for the ramps to be constructed piecemeal essentially, rather than all at one time. Next slide. Next challenge, the modification of the Mar Vista pedestrian overcrossing alignment. Again, during construction, it was identified that there are 2 existing force main sewer lines belonging to the county that were not shown on the drawings. So assessing that, the sewer lines were in conflict with the POC foundation. Looking at options to mitigate, one would be relocating the sewer line rather than trying to modify the structure. It was determined that would be more expensive than modification to the structure. So we went back, reevaluated, and found the best alternative to be relocating the bridge away from the sewer line. Couple of key points there: less expensive and allows the POC to be constructed this year to avoid more than a year delay to the project. In addition, 25 of the 45 plan sheets were affected by the change. Next slide. Another significant issue is has to do with the construction of the retaining walls. Prior to building the walls, tree removal is required. What we identified during construction is that the number of trees required to do the work was underestimated. So what we have is about 5,000 feet of retaining wall to build, and significant, and that's throughout the project. So with that, additional trees throughout that length. In addition, there were environmental hurdles to get through in adding additional trees, which equated in working with agencies to get that concurrence. However, it did delay the project a bit, and obviously additional cost for the delays and the additional work. Next slide. Another category is differing site condition. Like you've heard from Amin, some things are unforeseen, and we don't necessarily get into those until construction begins. A few subcategories here. Existing materials unsuitable for use as anticipated. That includes soil conditions in the median and widening and other locations. Another subcategory, man-made buried objects. As you see in that middle picture there, we have issues with the existing structural section of the highway, which doesn't match what was on the plans. In that case there, what the plan showed was approximately 6 inches, or half a foot, and this is showing approximately 1.5 feet. And then another issue, like you've already heard in the presentation, utility conflicts. You know, we try our best, designers do the legwork ahead of time, but sometimes utilities just aren't caught, or at least the conflicts, and they arise during construction, and we handle them as changes. Ooh, back one. I think you're ahead of me. All right. Another significant cost and challenge to the project is maintaining public safety. Obviously, congested corridor, large volume of traffic, squeezed down now within the work zone. What happens as a result is the safety feature, the temporary safety features that we use to keep everyone safe do tend to get hit, and we have to maintain those throughout the life of the project. And again, with additional delays, that is an extra cost. Next slide. And then looking ahead to finishing out the project, we've at this point have a list of current risks that we're monitoring here, looking ahead. Something that has arisen, and even really recently since the agenda topic was submitted, we've identified that top item there, an existing change order for a retaining wall that was identified in the field that wasn't shown on the plans, which is in direct conflict with some new walls that need to be built. Then stage 1B construction. So that's a stage coming up. We are planning as a risk to account for unforeseen change orders, unsuitable materials. Obviously, we don't have clear numbers, but it is a risk we are evaluating as we move forward. Then we have finalizing the design modifications for the POC. While we do have a clear strategy of moving forward, we don't have the complete redesign to be able to have a final dollar amount to assess that. So again, a risk that we're keeping in mind, considering while we move forward here. And then just the overall project financial health, contingency needs. All of these changes require a need for contingency. So that's constantly in the forefront, as we've seen before, monitoring that. So we're proactively staying ahead of it. Next slide. Okay, some good news. Throughout the work so far, again, almost halfway done with the project, We have been able to find some savings along the way. Here's a few examples of what we have and some values put to that. I can just do a quick overview of each one. Let's see, big one at the top there, reclassifying some material originally identified as aerially deposited lead, contaminated soil. With the information provided in the contract, it was anticipated that would have to be taken off-site to a disposal facility. And we since did some additional testing and found that we're able to utilize either some of that material on site or dispose of it at a location that wasn't a hazardous waste facility. Basically, it was unregulated material, just like the soil that we're using elsewhere on the project. Then southbound Bay Porter on-ramp changes. This was a close look at the design of the ramp and identifying, number one, actually found some good information in assessing the conditions of the existing ramp. It was in a condition that was better than anticipated, and we were able to do a little bit of redesign there, adjusting the profile of the ramp and reduce the scope of the work needed to accomplish the final design. And then a few smaller miscellaneous examples of design changes. Looking at irrigation, we were able to reduce some of that scope, yet still accomplish what the systems are supposed to, how they're supposed to perform, along with smoothness and pavement issues based on final conditions, again, as we move forward. And then design changes for overhead sign panels. Again, looking ahead to see what we could change in the design to save a little bit of money there. Next slide. And this is the summary of additional work due to change orders. So now this is what we've got in the forefront of as a status at the moment of changes to the original contract and looking ahead to some funding needs. In this case, it'd take a lot of detail to dig into each one of these. There is a comprehensive list available, but what we wanted to highlight is the magnitude then. So adding up the design changes to date and with some other figures coming up here, this totals 7.7 at the moment, so that's additional costs to the original work. If you go to the next slide, we have a nice summary here incorporating that number 7.7 million of a total additional work. So if we take that, we would be looking at adding 10% of the remaining $44 million of work to complete the project. And then two credits of one is the project cost savings we identified a couple slides back, 1.5 million, and then the original 4.1 million project contingency. So the total of those figures being 6.5 million. Next slide. So then moving on to highlighting some of the successes that we have had along the way here and look forward to continuing. Stakeholders partnering, a very core part of Caltrans construction process, inviting stakeholders, including RTC, their designer, the contractor, as well as the county. Maintaining safe, productive job site, no significant safety issues, proactively addressing as they come up, and creatively implementing alternative solutions, saving the 1.5 million we highlighted earlier. We've also really had a good partner in Granite Construction with their commitment to be flexible with these changes that we've been working through along the way, and they've been able to mitigate a lot of challenges that could have been a lot worse. So really appreciate their participation. And then diligently progressing construction to complete the Capitol Avenue Bridge late this fall. Next slide. Thank you.
Thank you for that detailed report. And I think you answered one of my questions is the bridge anticipation. And would that be open to the public? Not like the pedestrian bridge sat there for months and hopefully it can be used sooner once it gets finished?
Yes, that's the plan.
Thank you. Commissioner, questions? Commissioner Clark?
Well, good morning, and thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the information. One thing I want to note is that I really appreciate the increased detail on this report, and it's something that we'd asked for as a result of the last one. So I appreciate the detail you put in there. I also really appreciate the active work to find those cost savings. However, we've got cost runs, which, give me a great deal of heartburn. So I just want to ask some questions about them. First of all, one of our additional cost items here was sort of, I guess, a misscheduling of how the off-ramps and on-ramps were going to be closed, right? So it caused us to have to rethink that. It seems a little bit like a no-brainer that closing all the off-ramps was going to create a significant issue for the public here. And so now we've refigured this, and it's going to cost us additional money. My question is whose plan was it to close all of those? It seems a little bit like an own goal on us, if you're familiar with that soccer term, right?
Yeah, so in that case, that was part of the design process and possibly an oversight. In coming to construction, the contract then allowed for the contractor to choose that as a work plan. And at that point, they took advantage of that. Obviously, that's going to get them the work accomplished as soon as possible for them and most efficiently. And that's where we then found the conflict.
All right. It seems to me, and I totally understand the cost overrun behind the unmapped sewer force main, right? Absolutely. That's what contingencies, in my mind, that's what a contingency is for, a situation like that. Situations that we have control of, such as looking at this and going, oh my gosh, we probably shouldn't do that. For me, that's not what contingency money should be for. We should be figuring this out. We should be giving an actual cost estimate of what this thing's going to cost based on smarter decisions like that. And I understand if that wasn't your choice, but that's kind of where I'm going with this, and that's what frustrates me about cost overruns. I have no problem with moving the pedestrian overcrossing foundation. That was something well beyond your control, and you're mitigating it appropriately. But I also want to take a look at some of these cost savings that we found. So one of them was the removal of a couple of sections of sound wall, right? Mm-hmm. And that's going to save us some money. So for me, that begs the question of, if these sections of sound wall are unnecessary, why were they included in the first place? And are they really unnecessary? And then are there other elements of this that really aren't necessary, and we can find additional cost savings now?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's another issue that was during the design process. In maybe we have some others that can speak to that. Me being involved in the construction process, I don't necessarily know the entire background of how that plan was developed. But
Yeah, and if that's not a fair question for you, I'm fine for, whoever's eager to answer that one. And I understand there's design and there's construction side of it. And so that one, that's a jump ball up for anybody who wants to answer that and how we got to there.
I'll take that one, Commissioner. So as you may or may not know, I've been, prior to being the executive director, I was the project manager for this project during the design process. For the ramp issue, what was envisioned was not all, the entire interchange all closing at the same time. We knew that these closures were going to be needed in order to construct the work. But unfortunately, sometimes the interpretation of a contract can get a little bit fuzzy, if you will, and the contractor was originally proposing to close the entire interchange for 14 months, which we intervened and said absolutely not. So I suppose the cost increase associated with maintaining traffic and limiting the impacts to the traveling public is somewhat of a price to pay to limit the impacts to the traveling public. I mean, I think I might have lost my job if I closed the entire interchange, one of the busiest interchanges in the county, for 14 months. I probably wouldn't be here. So, these things happen during construction, and then as the sound wall is, your concerns about the sound wall. Sometimes there's differing conditions during construction, and in terms of the original alignment of the sound wall, we worked extensively with the condo complex that sound wall is intended to serve, really. And this was the alignment that we landed on, and then as we went into actual construction and having to get big equipment up very steep slopes, it was very clear that we had to update that design. So we actually went back to the condo complex, presented to them, made this adjustment. We actually saved a bunch of trees that we were originally going to be needing to remove, which the residents were really happy about. So this, as far as the sound wall goes, those types of things happen also during construction that contingency is intended to cover. But in this project, in this case, there's quite a bit of complexities, and then the sewer line was a big deal. And here we are today. So there's a little bit of history there. I know it's not all rosy, but
Well, that helps to at least explain it. It helps us to at least understand that. And I have just a couple other questions on some of these. On taking a look at these adjustments on, it's page 2616, there's a cost savings for smoothness adjustment. Can you explain that to me? I read that and I see, okay, are we sacrificing the smoothness of the highway to save some money, or what does it really mean?
In essence, the concept is exactly how you explained it, but it's relative to Caltrans standards.
Okay.
So our specification requires a contractor to build the final roadway surface to a particular smoothness. But there is some flexibility there to where if they do better than the expectation, they get a bonus. If they do a little bit less than the expectation, we get a credit. But in either case, it's all what Caltrans has deemed acceptable.
As long as we don't feel like we're riding the giant tipper.
No, you won't feel it. The smoothness standards are so stringent now, nobody would be able to tell.
Right. And I'm taking a look at other items listed here on the change order description. There's a charge for $20,000 for man-made objects. And then below that, there's another line for remove buried man-made objects for $30,000. So did it cost us $20,000 for you to find it and then $30,000 for you to remove that? Or can you explain that a little bit more? That's on page 26-18, Exhibit A, on the change order descriptions.
I don't think I have that one with me here. Yeah, let me take a look at it. Which numbers here?
It's on page 26-18A. It's on Exhibit A, the change order description. There's a line there for buried man-made objects at a cost of $20,000. And then just below that, there's remove buried man-made object for $30,000.
Okay, so being in the details here, I'm not in the trenches every day. We do have, Martin Nam is our construction engineer on site who can provide a little bit of insight for us.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you said, my name is Martin Nam. Sometimes the title can be a little bit deceiving. What happens is we go in, we dig, we find man-made buried objects. Sometimes we call it, buried man-made objects. And sometimes, but the fact of the matter is that this is on unforeseen condition. So the title might be a little bit deceiving. It's not like we find it, then we try to remove it.
And looking at it now, I see a little bit more clearly what this is. If you look at the number,
correct,
it starts with 4. That was the original change order.
Okay.
Or S1 is a supplement to that change order, which means it's within the same scope. So basically, it means additional work to that original work.
To the same object?
No, well, or other objects in the same.
Got it.
Yes, you got it.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's just nomenclature there.
And then just a couple more questions. Thank you for my fellow commissioners indulging me here. These cost overruns, there was a situation that was highlighted in item number 7 on our consent agenda, talking about how because Caltrans experienced a shortage in manpower, that you had to farm out some of this project management work. And that was done at a higher rate, in fact, 46% higher than the regular rate. I'm wondering, are any of our cost overruns listed here on this item due to that situation mentioned in item number 7 on our consent agenda?
I can answer that one. No. Item number 7 is about segment 1 of the corridor, and it's about our staffing support. This item before you is about construction capital, and so it's the construction contractor, which is contracted out.
Okay.
Does that clarify?
Yeah, no, that helps me to understand that. I'm glad to hear that. And then finally, this is probably for our staff, but what was our original contingency on this, for this project?
I believe it was 5%. That's pretty standard for Caltrans projects. However, RTC in our construction program, we typically use at least 10%. So we are likely to use a higher contingency percentage for our future phase of highway and coastal rail trail projects.
Okay. And then finally, how is this proposed plan that we have here on this item? What will that do, or how will that affect future projects? And that's probably for our staff.
Well, the highway program is, of Measure D. I think that's what you're getting at, is essentially, it's not endless, right? It's a 30-year measure, and we are actually, the Phase 1 and the Phase 2 projects, so basically the SoCal Drive to State Park Drive improvements that are either complete or under construction today, that's actually the entire expenditure plan of Measure D for the highway corridor category. So it's important for us to note, we are, not even 10 years into our 30-year measure, and we've already delivered our expenditure plan for Measure D for this. So we're doing more, essentially, with the third phase project all the way to Freedom Boulevard. But that third phase project, it leaves less potential, contingency for unforeseen things for that last project. So our team is really using a lot of these lessons learned in construction of these first 2 projects and applying them to the third project because it is the largest. And it being a large project, contingency levels, a percentage is more than a few $1 million for that project. So it's you know, it essentially adds a little bit of risk to the entire capacity of the measure to successfully complete the third phase project. So staff's been working really diligently to manage the risk of that project so that we could successfully complete it and hopefully have a little bit of funding left over to do other enhancements into the next few decades of the measure, the life of the measure.
So if I understand that, it's just for our later projects down the line, we run the risk of running out of money for them and going to have to seek some other funding sources if we want to complete them at scale. That's correct. Okay. Thank you all so much. I appreciate the presentation. Sorry if my questions seemed a little bit abrupt, but this is an area that concerns me, and it's one I think the public's got a right to know. Where are we spending the money, and why is it? There's a reason that they make jokes about government can never deliver a project on budget. It's because we run into situations like this. And I want to make sure that we're transparent and we're giving complete explanations for why these things happen and that it's reasonable. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner questions? Commissioner Jensen?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner Clark, for those questions. I had many of the same ones that you had. Just a couple more. And then if I could just follow up, just regarding the tree removal part, it was like noted at like $679,000 or something like that for tree removal. Can you elaborate a little bit on exactly what that was, just around retaining walls and trees that weren't noted on the plans and stuff?
That's correct. They were underestimated. So the footprint of, the wall itself was identified with a certain dimension on either side, which accounted for the number of trees that we have in the contract. What we, during construction, identified is there's access to be made as well. Looking at the contractor's operations, we had to work with them to find, obviously, as little as possible, but there was additional trees that needed to be taken out to get access to that original area that was identified. So the trees came with that.
All right, one other question. Can you explain or maybe talk a little bit more in detail about what ramp inefficiency are? And I think the number was $500,000.
Do you have a reference there?
I did not reference, I think it was listed, I apologize, I should have noted that. It just had a comment saying that there's inefficiencies at the Bay and Porter Street off-ramp inefficiencies, and it was, I think the amount was noted at $500,000.
Okay, yes, I can address that. So those are impacts that the contractor now has for resequencing the work. Where initially, again, they were going to close all four, do it all in one shot. Now, by piecemealing it, doing them one at a time or a few at a time, there's impacts related to that for, say, mobilization, demobilization, multiple times to get in there.
All right, wasn't written that question, but I thought there was a line item earlier that amount was 1.9. So is that 1.9? And then plus the $500,000 of inefficiency, so those two would be together at 2.4?
I'll let Martin answer this one.
Yes, one of the things we do when we try to project, in as much as we have the risk, but these are the risks from experience that we know that this is unanticipated. Contractor, when they bid a job, they have a way they proceed to bid that job. Now you impact that job, of course, down the road is going to come up with inefficiency, it's going to come up with loss of production, some escalation. So we always anticipate this risk as part of future costs. So that is what we're capturing right now.
All right, one last question and then a comment, and then thank you for the time. So at this point, what's the projection of change order cost percentage overruns going to be? What are you guys projecting right now? Outside contingency, what are we running on a percentage base?
Take away $4 million. I don't have my glasses. I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses. So
yeah, so what we would do here is the $7.7 million. Okay. That's our current projected additional work divided by the original 80. I forget the total
It's about
contract.
10%.
Yeah, so not quite 10, almost 10% at the moment, which is why we chose 10% to move forward for a reasonable contingency.
Great, thank you, and I really appreciate it. I have an extensive background in school bond projects and stuff like that, so I understand the struggles of unforeseen conditions. Just some of these, I think, we talked about transparency and being able to be responsible to the public, to be able to ask these tough questions and then have responses. So I appreciate the position you're in for answering these questions and everything. And then also, it's refreshing to hear from our executive director, about learning from these and, being better in the future. And so, those can be included in costs, and so we understand what those costs are going in, so we can make those tough budget decisions if a project moves forward and not have a whole bunch of potential overruns. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Any other Commissioner De Serpa?
Thank you, and thank you to the other commissioners. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there somebody that wants to?
Yeah, I just want to clarify something, actually, because the RTC staff, along with consultants, we work hand in hand with Caltrans through verifying all of these CCOs. We don't come to you unless we have verified them. And to your point, Commissioner Jensen, the 1.9 is in the smaller schedule, which is kind of like summing some of the detailed schedule together to give you an idea. So the 500,000 you mentioned, which has a TBD to it, is part of the 1.9 million. And so that's in the details. The 500,000 is in the details. You could see this 1.9 million is change order 11 and change order 11 S1, as well as the TBD item, which is the 500,000 because of the cost of the delay impacts and the inefficiencies that could come up.
Perfect. Thank you so much for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Now, Commissioner De Serpa.
Thank you. Thanks to the other commissioners for the great round of questions. I answered many of my own questions, but I just have a couple of little things. So in terms of the Mar Vista Bridge relocation of the POC, I'm not sure what POC stands for. I know it's the base, sounds like the base of the bridge.
That's our acronym for pedestrian overcrossing.
Oh, okay, great. So is it in the same general area that it was planned for? Because we have other subsequent planning happening simultaneously.
Yes, it wasn't much of a move at all.
Right.
It's literally trying to get out of, the conflict that was identified was right at the edge of the proposed foundation for the structure. So at that point, the structure just moved a little bit to avoid that conflict.
And how did you learn that there was a force main there?
It was
Was it collaboration with county staff, or? I'm really glad it was discovered ahead of digging.
Yes, actually, we work closely with the contractor. So as they prepare to do the work, they go out and assess utilities, they stake it, they make sure their planned work is going to work, if you know what I mean. So at that point, that's when the conflict was identified. So it was before the work began, and there was time before the work was going to begin, but because it was such a significant change, right, we looked at two different alternatives, had to evaluate that, get the design started, and at that point, it became a delay.
Okay, well, I appreciate that it happened ahead of time, that you found that out, because we had just replaced many of the sewer lines in the Seacliff neighborhood. So to have to redo that would not have been successful for the residents who have been in position. Secondly, the removal of the trees for this project and then subsequently south, it's tremendously expensive. It was actually a surprise how expensive that is. A lot of people are complaining about that because of the loss of the sort of the canopy along Highway 1. And we've got some big redwoods also in the next portion that is planned. I'm just wondering, is there any mitigation for the loss of this this canopy and bird habitat, et cetera?
Do you want me to answer that since?
sure.
Yeah.
We all know
And I'm
that
sorry, I
answer.
don't know, but.
It's okay. Again, a lot of work went into the pre-construction work, which I was heavily involved with. The mitigation, so typically when we remove vegetation, we are required, especially if it's in the coastal zone, to replant in a certain ratio, usually 3-to-1, sometimes 1-to-1 ratios. So we followed all the regulatory ratios and we're able to replant on site. So although it might look like a lot of the vegetation's gone, there will be replanting towards the end of the project to restore in the correct ratio that we were required to. So typically, we replant many, many more trees than we remove.
Thank you, Sarah. That's very, very helpful. And then, because I am a new commissioner, and this is not my area of expertise, these cost overruns, so we've essentially, I saw the list of money. I see that we've used the contingency, the 5% in that calculation, and I see the savings. So it seems like the cost overruns are 6.5, is that correct? Because I heard you just say 7.5 million, but I think it's 6.5 after the cost overruns, so far.
Gross. So the 7.7 is total cost overruns. When you take the 1.5 million savings out of that, I think that's what
Right.
you're looking at as a net.
And given that this is a state highway, it's surprising to me that somehow that particular cost is now being borne by the county RTC. It seems like it should either belong to the state or be split somehow. So are you standing here telling us that this entire cost overrun has to be borne by this commission, the Santa Cruz County RTC, or?
Mr. Commissioner, before we start the delivery of any project, in fact, from the early times, whenever we touch on the state highway project, from early on planning as well as environmental documents and right-of-way and design and so forth, we have cooperative agreements that we do with Caltrans. And in these cooperative agreements, we spell out the responsibilities of the cost sharing, and the cost sharing has some state funding sometimes, some federal funding, as well as the local funding. And for the cooperative agreements, because of the limited nature of the state funding, except for grants and except for special shop eligible items and things like that, they would have to be borne by the partnering agency, which is us in that way. So these are kind of all elaborated in the cooperative agreements, and we are, yes, to cover the cost overruns.
Okay. So thank you for that explanation. Partly, I think I knew that already, but just for the public, I really wanted that question answered. Our county is fifth from the bottom in terms of our property tax revenue. And so we don't have a lot of money in our general fund. And so the help that the state gives us in the form of grants, et cetera, is really very critical to us being able to get any real work done. I wish we had more money to spend on our surface streets, because in our rural areas, on many of our unincorporated areas, people have been suffering with road conditions for many, many years, and we just aren't able to provide them the relief that they deserve. We have a lot of property taxpayers in this community, and we have school buses going down many of these rural roads, and we, frankly, we need more money to help. So anyway, thank you for the report. I'm sorry we have cost overruns, and hopefully we can sort of plan maybe a 10% contingency for future projects instead. Thank you.
Commissioner Downing.
With, with regards to the landing of the Mar Vista Bridge, you said it won't change much. Can you describe how much and if there are any additional safety measures for where it lands? That's a really busy intersection, and a lot of people use that to commute, the Mar Vista and McGregor Road. So I just wanted to know how much and if there's any changes that are going to
Yeah,
keep people safe.
the shift is 5 feet. 5 feet, the landing is shifted 5 feet inwards towards the freeway.
So
So
is it-
it's a negligible shift as far as you probably won't feel it as a pedestrian. However, that was what's needed to avoid the conflict. And again, you know, with, albeit it's a simple shift as it sounds, but it had to come with a lot of design changes and a lot of design impacts as well as construction impacts. Because now, for example, as the way that they have, the designers try to do the shift is to reduce the radius of half of the bridge, which is like, say, from the middle of the freeway into the McGregor side. They reduced the radius of that a little bit, so that kind of shifted the landing inwards that 5 feet that we needed. However, again, you know, the inefficiencies of this is that the contractor had proposed to use the same forms for the first half into the second half. So it's kind of like just basically flipping the forms. And now, as the radius have changed, this would necessitate that there is a new form, there are new, then they have to order the forms and these kind of things. But again, this is all was evaluated against to actually relocate the actual force mains, and these force mains relocation was basically determined that it was much better to shift the bridge rather than play with the force mains.
Thank you. I know these things sometimes cascade. You move one piece and then it's like a pebble in a pond. So I just wanted to make sure that we keep our eye on that, because it's a really critical intersection, especially now that more pedestrians and cyclists will be coming over the bridge. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I
with
ask,
that,
may I ask one more question? So the 5 feet, is that all going to just be a wider sidewalk, or how is it going to get distributed? So basically, the 5 feet is going to be added to the cross-section of McGregor Drive. So is it going to result in a wider sidewalk?
Why does?
No.
Oh, no. Okay. Or bike lanes?
There was, yes, there is a gain on McGregor. You're absolutely right. There is a wider section on McGregor at that area. You're right.
And that width goes into the bike lanes now, or the traveled lanes? Do we know the exact cross-section? Sorry to put you guys on the spot.
No, it's not encroaching on the existing bike lane, no.
Okay.
thank you. And any commissioner online have a question? Because I can't see. No? With that, we're going to go out to the public. I'd like to weigh in this item of the agenda.
Hi, Brian Peoples with Trail Now. Thank you for coming out, you guys, and it's a tough job. I actually have facility construction experience, and, you know, this stuff happens. Thank you, Commissioner Clark, Jensen, and DeSerpa for asking tough questions and looking at the details. But this brings up, again, the broader issue of this organization's management. We're hearing Sarah say about the impact on Measure D. We're failing our community because you think you're going to have this, you know, you got a lot of money, we're okay, but you're not going to have money. And it's very sad. This is just another failure of this board's efforts on strategic planning. You sitting there, you think you're going to have a $5 billion train, but you can't even manage the widening of your highway. You guys are failing. You're failing on basic financial management.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Dan Meyer, and I'm here to tell you that you have no encroachments. Those come from judges. So that was a huge lie. You threatened homeowners, and they are due letters of apology for doing that, as well as letters stating you have no interest in their properties because you have no plans.
Is this on the highway?
No, this is about you.
I'm sorry, but we're talking about item number 26 on the highway. Thank you.
Hi, Aurelio Gonzalez. Hey, awesome work on highway projects. I worked in construction for 28 years, and I know how it is. Things come up. I did specialize in hospital work, but I did do some highway projects here on Highway 1. They're difficult to complete. They're difficult to get going sometimes. And just like they said, you know, we used to dig and then we'd find something, right? That wasn't on the plans. It's like, and so we had to adjust. So overall, I think you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up. I think Measure D is fulfilling its needs. And Caltrans is responsible for part of this big project, right? And we're all in partnership with them. And the consultants are doing their best that they can as it's given to them. So keep moving forward, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Lonnie Faulkner. I just want to make a note about the replacement of the trees. I have a background in agriculture as well. The decades that those trees have been growing is significant to carbon sequestration. I'm really grateful to hear about the replacement of the trees, but what I've noticed across the county is a lot of times tens of thousands of dollars will be spent to replace trees that end up dying because they're really not properly cared for. So typically a lot of trees need to be watered for a period of time and monitored. This was just done at Moran Lake, tens of thousands of dollars spent and the trees are dead. So please do put some awareness into that and making sure that these replanting projects are monitored and protected until they can establish. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody online?
Kevin McGuire.
Hello?
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Hello. Perfect. Yeah, I wanted to point out what Sarah Christensen said about the 10% contingency that you guys plan for. So just think about that with every single project, and $4 or $5 billion for a train. And then I believe the commissioner talked about going out for other sales tax. If we increase our sales tax to over 12%, you're not going to be able to ask us to keep raising taxes for other needs. So we need to prioritize our needs today, for the people today, and not displace people. You guys have got a limited funding source. We're one of the smallest counties in the state. So we can't just keep asking and taking more from the residents. We're taxed out. So we really need to focus on what we can do now and end these $1 million studies on the choo-choo.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to bring it back to the commission for appropriate motion. I'll make the motion to accept staff report. And it's been second. So can I get a roll call?
Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Keeley? Commissioner Clark?
Just point of clarification, is the motion for staff recommendation?
Yes.
Thank you. Aye.
Commissioner Montesino?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Schifrin? Aye. Commissioner DeSerpa?
Aye.
Commission Alternate Ritter?
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner Downing?
Aye.
Commissioner Leonor?
Yes.
Commissioner Quiros Carter?
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you. So now we're going to move on to item 27, Measure D, active transportation expenditures and financing options. Staff report. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Grace Blakesley of your staff. The item before you today is to provide information about the recent updates to potential funding needs for development of the Coastal Rail Trail projects. Request your direction on project delivery where information is available, and also to initiate financing options for the Measure D active transportation category. Next slide, please. So as Director Christensen mentioned, and in her report, as well as part of the prior item, RTC and its partners are advancing the delivery of projects at a faster pace than Measure D pay-as-you-go allow. So what we're seeing is we're providing these public benefits earlier than the full term of Measure D, but it is necessitating for the Measure D active transportation category financing to continue to deliver these projects as currently scheduled. Therefore, as part of the discussion, RTC, with support of RTC's KNN public finance consultant, we're going to provide an overview of how current and potential future near-term and longer-term funding needs that are known to date could impact the availability of Measure D active transportation revenues for current projects under development and future projects. As also mentioned, I feel like there's a theme here today. As Measure D revenues are essential for leveraging state and federal funds, they were not, for the Measure D active transportation category, anticipated to fully fund the 32-mile coastal rail trail, but we have been very successful in using these local funds to leverage state and federal funds. And for the coastal rail trail projects, it's over $150 million in dollars that we've been able to leverage from the state and federal funds. Before I go into the details of this slide, I wanted to let the Commission and the public know that today's item is for information only related to project updates and potential funding needs. We will return to the Commission in November, well, expected to be in November, with any additional recommendations on future programming of Measure D funds. RTC in general will continue to work through project cost estimates with the project sponsors prior to that date to refine them and to bring to you proposed programming updates as appropriate for the next 5-year plan update. So this is an image that we keep on our website and we keep updating. The goal is to get the entire line that you see there to green, which means the coastal rail trail will be completely open to the public. We have had some recent updates that I wanted to highlight. This is very, obviously a regional project and very complex. So we're very proud when we complete different segments. These segments are being completed in coordination with the cities and the counties, the County of Santa Cruz as well. And we'll talk a little bit about the different project sponsors and leads going forward. So the update since I was last before you to talk about the coastal rail trail projects is segment 7 was completed. So the green area kind of left of center is extended to show that the segment 7 project now is completed all the way to the wharf in the city of Santa Cruz. So the recent addition was from the intersection of Bay Avenue and California down to the wharf. So I hope you all had a chance to participate in the ribbon cutting and at least ride the trail if you haven't already. The other significant update is what you discussed at your August meeting, which was award of the SB1 grant for the Highway 1 State Park and Freedom Auxiliary Lane and Bus on Shoulder project, and also including the Segment 12 project. So that now is construction funded based on the current cost estimates. Some of the focus of discussion today will be on segments 8 through 11. So I wanted to make sure you were able to view those on the screen. Segment 8 and 9 are being led by the City of Santa Cruz in coordination with the County of Santa Cruz, and segment 10 and 11 are being led by the County of Santa Cruz. I also wanted to highlight for folks in the northern part of county, if you haven't been up there, if you have been up there, you'll see that segment 5, which extends between Wilder Ranch and Davenport, is still under construction and is expected to be completed in summer 2026. Next slide, please. There's a lot of information on the slide. I wanted to kind of point out a couple of things, but I also wanted it to be a resource for you and members of the public who are viewing this presentation today. So we've looked at the Coastal Rail Trail segments 5. I discussed that's under construction on the North Coast, segment 8 through 11, which extend from Pacific Avenue to State Park. Segment 12, I mentioned the new funding that was awarded, and you recognized in your August commission meeting that extends from State Park to Rio Del Mar. And then also under development as part of the zero emission passenger rail and trail project, the commission have seen proposed alignments for segments 17, 18, and 19 in and around the city of Watsonville, as well as other segments in the county of Santa Cruz, extending from Rio Del Mar to San Andreas Road, as well as the crossing of Pajaro River. These projects all have different status, and the ones that I hadn't touched on in the prior slide are segments 17, 18, and 19. The RTC has programmed $4.8 million to those projects for pre-construction funding, and we are gearing up to release the request for proposals to complete the preliminary design and environmental work for that project, but construction funding for that project has not been programmed or identified to date. So that would be a future funding need. Similar for segments 13 through 16 and 20, we have not identified or programmed the pre-construction or construction funding as part of that, but the design is being informed by the work completed as part of the zero emission passenger rail and trail project. Related to the segment 8 and 11 project, we're focusing on that today because project cost estimates were recently updated for those projects in August 2025. The purpose of bringing that information to the commission again is so that you can consider what potential impacts that will have on project delivery and potential use of Measure D funds in the future. What we see is the project cost estimates from August 2025 show that the total funding gap has grown for those projects, both in the area of final design, including funding for right-of-way, as well as for the construction costs. This is largely due to the unit cost the unit cost increases for materials, as well as escalation costs that we're seeing currently, and the shift in the schedule for the project as they move forward towards delivery. These cost estimates also reflect the direction provided by the commission to seek cost savings and through the value engineering analysis, as well as seek new funding. Although there was cost savings through the value engineering analysis, they've been largely offset by the escalation costs, as well as we were successful in obtaining an additional $19.5 million for these projects, but we still have a funding gap that we need to address. Oh, I did want to point out in terms of those cost estimates, the total was shown here in terms of the construction cost and cost for environmental mitigation at $65 million shown in the slide, do not include the potential cost savings of working with Roaring Camp for the rail track relocation. We do have a memorandum of understanding with them to do that work, and we appreciate their coordination. However, we're still working through the details of how that would be implemented. So this isn't a conservative estimate that is still an opportunity for future cost savings. Next slide, please. So in the staff report, for informational purpose only, we're not necessarily recommending these three different scenarios, but we wanted to try to provide a range of information for the commission to consider about what the current and future needs for the Measure D active transportation category would be. It's similar to the question Commissioner Clark asked related to the highway program in terms of thinking about the capacity of the measure over the long term. So what we've provided today for examples are what kind of financing would be required based on the current programmed funds, so what is in the adopted 5-year plan. The commission typically considers the adopted 5-year plan every year in November, but we also do make updates throughout the year, similar to what you considered in the previous item to address project needs. We also provided a scenario which looked at what we're calling the anticipated near-term needs as presented to you in April of this year. We know that there'll be some upcoming needs for additional environmental mitigation related to the North Coast Rail Trail project, segment 5. And then we've also been informed by the city of Santa Cruz and the county of Santa Cruz that they will need additional funding for design and right-of-way to proceed with their project development. So that's an immediate need to do that. And also, as discussed on the previous slide, we are aware that in terms of the longer-term potential commitments for Measure D, it could include construction funding for segments 8 through 11. As a reminder, at your board meeting in April 2024, the Commission did commit to fully funding specifically segments 10 and 11 as a way to support the county in moving forward with their Caltrans cooperative agreement for the active transportation program funds. So I'm going to pass it over to Melissa, who's online. She is with KNN Public Finance, and she's helped to prepare the discussion of how financing might look for these different scenarios, the current anticipated near term and anticipated longer term, and also discuss some of the opportunities that the Commission would have or options for pursuing financing. So although we're not asking for programming additional funding today, we want you to be aware of what the funding needs are and also ask for direction to begin the process for financing, which we would return to you at a later date with all of the materials required for your approval before entering into those agreements. Next slide, please. Melissa, you there?
Yeah, thank you, Grace, and pleasure to be here with you all this morning. The slide in front of you is a table that we extracted from the staff report. KNN has been working very closely with Grace and other members of the RTC staff, evaluating various expenditure scenarios specific to the active transportation program. On this table, we summarize for those three different project expenditure scenarios anticipated revenues to be allocated to the Measure D active transportation program over the 5-year period, which is consistent in all three scenarios. And then the difference of the scenarios is the different capital expenditure needs that we evaluated in the context of the active transportation program. So you'll see with the current program, it's kind of just under 40 million of capital expenditures. Anticipated near term considers an additional 10 million of expenditures, and then the longer term programming nearly doubles that up to approximately 80 million of expenditures. And so what we do on our end with regard to helping you all manage the Measure D program and making certain that each expenditure category kind of is able to support its needs and its projects on its own, we evaluate and look at ongoing cash flow within each expenditure category. In this context, we evaluated different borrowing needs across these three different scenarios, which range from about $12.5 million in assuming current programming for the expenditures within that scenario, to 23 million of potential borrowing need as we look at an additional 10 million of expenditures, and then even up to the kind of the higher end outer limit of the capital expenditure expectations would require bonding needs of approximately 55 million over the course of several years. We look at, all of these borrowings and analyses that we've done in the context of your capital expenditure needs, again, have aimed to maintain a positive cash flow balance within the active transportation expenditure category. And we also closely look at active transportation's ability to support any debt service on a borrowing that may be issued in the context of these programs. Next slide. So just to again underscore the assumptions utilized as we approach the analysis, as well as in the Measure D expenditure and cash flow model, all borrowings, if RTC were to issue debt supported by the Measure D sales tax revenues, the entirety of sales tax revenues would be pledged to the bonds. However, any borrowing for active transportation or maybe highway in the future are sized so that that particular program category has sufficient resources to repay the debt for a specific program category project. So in actuality, a bond financing and revenues to debt service will be much stronger in the eyes of bondholders. But as we manage the borrowing within each program category, we closely look at debt service coverage within each program category as well. We also size borrowing such that the program category maintains kind of sufficient liquidity to adjust to potential changes in projected revenues. So the current cash flow model assumes modest annual increases in Measure D sales tax revenues. To the extent that may be a decline in revenues from in any given year, we make certain that in modeling, we maintain some level of liquidity on an annual basis to such that we can adapt to changes in projected revenues. And then I should note that the borrowings in the model assume the issuance of long-term bonds with a final term on the bonds that does not exceed the term of the Measure D tax. So therefore, if RTC were to issue bonds or exercise a borrowing, in the next fiscal year on a long-term basis, the term of the bonds would be approximately 20 years between the next fiscal year and the term of your tax. Next slide. So what we thought we would do is just share a few examples of each of the cash flow and borrowing scenarios that we ran with RTC staff. So again, the first scenario is the current programming, and you'll see on the top graph that the current programming does suggest that based on the cash flow model assumptions, there may not be sufficient resources to meet the capital expenditure needs between fiscal 25 and fiscal 29. So you'll see that the green bar, which represents total cash flow resources within the active transportation program, that green line falls below the orange bars in fiscal 27, 28, and 29. So how do we solve that? In the below chart, we show the infusion of borrowing resources of approximately $12.5 million, and then the green line now increases, and there's sufficient resources to cover those expenditures, which is the orange bars, over the projected period. And then subsequent to the projected expenditures, there's sufficient additional capacity within the active transportation program, even after paying debt service on the borrowing and after covering program and project maintenance within the active transportation category. So again, all that white space between the green line and the blue bars is additional capacity or available resources within active transportation. Next slide. So these are the same charts that we just reviewed, but on the top, the orange bars now show capital expenditures associated with the second scenario, which includes the addition of an additional $10 million in project expenditures. And as you might expect, by adding more expenditures, our green line, available cash flow resources, is lower than the prior slide. And, our negative balances are greater by adding more expenditures. So we increase, on the bottom chart, we show an increase of borrowing proceeds to cover the additional capital expenditure requirements associated with these anticipated near-term programming needs. And then you will see that subsequent to that project construction period and after fiscal year 29, there remains capacity within active transportation for additional programming after paying debt service on any borrowing, program, and project maintenance. Next slide. So this slide represents kind of that third final scenario, which Grace introduced as the constrained final. And this is simply to say, under the current assumptions in the cash flow model, which projects revenues within active transportation to grow at a modest growth rate of 2% annually, kind of what's the maximum amount of capital expenditures and bonding active transportation can support to deliver anticipated longer-term programming. And in this instance, we've added, as noted earlier, kind of a total additional capital expenditures of approximately another 30 million or more. And you'll see that then in order to meet these additional capital expenditures, we've increased our borrowing amount such that the expenditures can be delivered in that same time frame as envisioned. However, given that this is kind of the maximum constrained scenario, you'll now see that future anticipated cash flow resources in active transportation will be solely devoted to the repayment of debt service and program maintenance. And under this scenario, there would be no additional capacity for projects or further programming beyond what we're showing here. Next slide. So as Grace mentioned, this is an information item. I know staff is working diligently to come back on several occasions to present to the Commission with regard to any borrowing strategy they may pursue. I think we just simply wanted to highlight there's different strategies that could be utilized based on, the project certainty, the expenditure needs, and the borrowing needs. And if it's just, it's likely that if, RTC's borrowing needs are smaller and just need to address some kind of just initial mismatch between revenues and expenditures, a line of credit interim borrowing solution may be an efficient way of addressing cash flow for active transportation. However, if the cash flow deficit is larger, not only for active transportation, but potentially in tandem with other program categories under Measure D, it may be more appropriate to issue a longer-term borrowing, which would likely be in the form of a public municipal bond, though we could evaluate state and federal loan programs. So we will be continuing to analyze and determine kind of the exact borrowing needs under the near term, not only within active transportation, but maybe other program categories, and I know staff will return to this commission with a recommendation of the appropriate borrowing tool in line with the borrowing need. Next slide. So just to highlight just key next steps as staff and KNN are starting to think through the potential need to borrow to move forward with several of the projects under Measure D and active transportation specifically. And first and foremost is just really to establish a legal framework to incur debt. RTC is able to, by being a local transportation authority, there's a specific state statute that allows RTC to pledge Measure D sales tax revenues. RTC will have to bring on a bond counsel on board to establish the documentation and the legal requirements in order to use Measure D revenues to repay, to secure debt and repay bondholders or a lender. And as mentioned previously, we'll be working on cash flow models and different scenarios, really to come to a strong kind of plan of finance and recommendation for the commission on the appropriate borrowing approach based on the expenditure needs. And then following just the established plan of finance, we will work closely with staff and legal advisors to prepare the financing for final commission approval. So once again, this is just an information item. There'll be more bites at the apple to provide transparency to this commission. But ultimately, any borrowing would need your approval, and it would need your approval in terms of establishing not to exceed borrowing parameters, both in terms of the amount borrowed and the borrowing rate. And then that process will provide other information and level of transparency with regard to the specific borrowing approach. And so with that, I think I pass it back over to Grace to wrap up.
Thank you, Melissa. Next slide, please. Before I know there's a lot of text on this slide, but I feel like that's a lot of the charts can be confusing at times, and there's a lot of details in there. So I try to communicate it in as many different ways for different types of people who take in different information differently. But before I move on, I wanted to just note that the 3 example graphs that Melissa shared with us are, again, just scenarios that we could consider based on the current programming needs, the anticipated near-term funding, the longer-term funding needs. Also, that all of those expenditure scenarios assume ongoing corridor maintenance, so that is a cost that we assumed throughout the life of Measure D. The Commission adds programming funding for that work typically as part of the 5-year process when we add an additional year. That's the only ongoing cost, though, that we did assume in those scenarios. We did not assume that we would continue to fund trail maintenance costs that are currently in the, it would be only commit to the trail maintenance costs that are in the 5-year plan through 28-29, and it does not identify additional funding for segments 13 through 20. So those are other considerations for the Commission. I also wanted to note that we do have some assumptions in the scenarios that could change as we come to you in November with the Measure D 5-year update, and those are primarily smaller changes, but related to the total expenditures we've actually made in 24-25, which we're working on updating, which could provide additional revenues in 25-26 if there's carryover. So you might see the graphs in terms of the years that financing is needed potentially shift, but I don't expect it to change significantly. And then also in that third column, which is the anticipated long-term funding in the third graph that you saw, I wanted to reiterate what Melissa said. So that scenario is, we called it the constrained, because that's the maximum that the Measure D active transportation category can sustain. So that's a $55 million borrowing need, and that is still would not be sufficient to fully fund the segments 8 through 11 construction based on current cost estimates. So understanding that there has to be a multi-pronged approach to completing the funding for those segments. We didn't provide you with the scenario to show that it's infeasible, so we showed you the constrained scenario of $55 million. So this is just a summary of those slides. I wanted just to point out again that the new capacity, and you probably picked it out on the graphs, would be available in fiscal year 29-30 should we go forward with financing for the current programming needs and the near-term programming needs. So those are kind of in terms of thinking about when new revenues would be available. Next slide. So to sum up, I wanted just to review the staff recommendation. We're here before you again to provide the updates to the project cost estimates for the Coastal Rail Trail projects under development, direct us to continue as staff working with our project sponsors and funding partners, to continue to look for opportunities to reduce costs for these projects. This could include modifications to the scope of the project, and then authorize the executive director to initiate that process for financing needed to secure the additional revenues earlier. I wanted to also acknowledge that the project manager for segment 8 and 9, Matt Starkey's here. He spoke to you on an earlier item and can answer more detailed questions on cost estimates if you have them. We still are refining those, as well as the project manager for the county, Rod Tidmore, for segments 10 and 11.
Commissioner questions? No questions? Oh, Commissioner Martinez.
Thank you. Just a question for clarity. It looked like for the max borrowing, we were using the full Measure D revenue, but really it was constrained based on what the active transportation line item could support. If we were to go that route, does that then constrain full Measure D revenue for other borrowing for other projects?
I'm sorry if that wasn't communicated correctly. That is the Measure D active transportation revenues that are assumed for that, not full Measure D revenues.
Oh, got
Melissa,
it.
did you have anything to add on that, or I think that's...
No, that's correct. Yeah, so that's the fully constrained just for active transportation. And there would be capacity for other borrowings within other program areas.
So we wouldn't be tapping into the other Measure D revenues for borrowing for active transportation projects?
Not under the scenarios that we've proposed
Great.
here.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Commissioner Jensen.
Yeah, just wanted to clarify, you said that in the staff report about the segments 10, 11 that are over budget by the 72 million, that's not included in these scenarios or what we explained today?
It is included to an extent. So it's actually segments 8 and 9. So if the city-sponsored project from the San Lorenzo, from the wharf all the way to 17th Avenue, as well as the county project from 17th Avenue to State Park. I think to answer your question specifically is the total potential cost funding gap based on the current project cost estimates could not be fully filled by Measure D revenues. The scenario that comes closest to that is by providing borrowing about $55 million in order to partially complete that funding gap, but additional sources would still be needed.
Just sorry, got to clarify. So 55, but it's projected at 72, so that's a shortfall in there. Is that correct?
That would continue to be a shortfall after Measure D active transportation funds are exhausted based on the current project cost estimates. And we have to keep in mind that we're constantly revising them, but we try to keep you updated every time we have a revision.
And at the same time, you look at like what revisions are. At the same time, is there like a sliding chart that kind of outlines what that looks like for future Measure D projects further down the line, like where that, if there are no more grants or additional funding committed, what those, like what impacts those have? And I know we're looking at Measure D overall, but if I'm just talking about the rail trail project, what does that do further on down the line if you get, past segment 11 and you're starting to run over? Is there a scenario what that looks like, or is it, and is there a line that gets drawn where that stops at, or what does that look like in the future?
Yeah, I think it might be helpful if we could back up, I think, 3 slides, Yesenia. Maybe we can look at that together. It might be helpful. Here we go. One more forward. There you go. This is a longer-term programming. Yes. So what we would see under that scenario is we would have very limited capacity in Measure D in the long term to serve as leveraged for funding state and federal funds. So we would have a significantly reduced amount of funding in the future to leverage state and federal funds for future segments, whether that be for initiating new projects or for additional cost overruns.
Okay, thank you.
And Grace, just to clarify, this isn't for Measure D overall, it's only for active transportation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Schifrin.
Yes, thank you. A couple of questions. Does this financial analysis assume no additional construction funding outside of Measure D? So it's essentially saying that if we were to build out the remainder of 8 through 11, we'd see what the financing is, and we'd sort of exhaust everything. But that assumes that there's no additional construction funding that it will be possible to get. Is that?
That is a correct assumption.
Okay. So the other...
or that is assumed in this, not a correct assumption.
The whole staff report here, and I think it's very useful, and thank you for providing it, really focuses on what's needed. I want to ask questions about what we may potentially lose if we're not able to go forward with these projects. Because as I understand it, we have, from the director's report, we've received $106 million in outside funding for the 8 through 11 rail trail segments. Is that?
In my director's report, I was talking about as of fiscal year 2024. So since then, we've received another
19.5 million. So we've in addition to that, we've received about 120 million for segments 8 through 11.
So my question is, how at risk is that funding? What do we have to do so that we don't lose it? Because that's a real concern. I mean, we can, if we're trying to figure out a way to fund the gap, the financing gap, it all becomes moot if we lose the grants. If we lose 120 million, we've got nothing. So, and it will be very difficult to ever find a way to get funding for any other rail trail segments because we've failed to produce. So what risk is that $120 million at? Are there timelines that we have to meet in order not to lose that funding?
Yes, the project funding was awarded to the city and the county, so I'd also like to make sure I provide them an opportunity to answer the questions if I don't fully answer them. But we do have a funding deadline for asking for construction allocation of June 2027 for those projects.
So if we're not able to start construction on June 2027, which means we've got to get past not only 60% design, but 100% design, and we've got to have full construction funding by that time, we will lose $120 million of outside funding. Is that, I just want to put it into context. Certainly, the funding situation is bad news. I wish it wasn't so. And ultimately, the commission's going to have to be in the position of facing up to, are we going to be able to build these segments? And I just want to put into context the discussion about from my point of view, looking for additional construction funding for segments 8 through 11, because I think it is clear we're going to need money for management, we're going to need money for segments 13 through 20, and they're just as important as the ones that have received $120 million for. But we've got to we've got to build those segments if we're ever going to be able to complete the trail. So it's that's the challenge I think we face at this time. But I think it's not, financing can be helpful potentially, but it's not going to solve our problem. If we're not able to identify and obtain additional construction funding, we're not going to have a rail trail in the mid-county area or for the rest of the county. I think it's a depressing picture, but I think it's important for the commission to recognize that that's the boat we're in. We've been extremely fortunate to get $120 million in outside funding allocated to just 8 through 11, not to mention the amount that's also available for segment 12. But somehow we're going to have to figure out a way, or we're going to have to find help from the outside to really make these projects happen. So thank you.
No problem. To simply answer your question, yes, the city and the county are responsible for fully funding these projects. The California Active Transportation Program does not provide funding for cost overruns. So any kind of potential cost increases are the responsibility of the project sponsor, and they've communicated to the RTC the need for support. And in the April 2024, RTC did say that they would support segments 10 and 11 to help fully fund that project through a variety of strategies. So I think the simple answer is yes, it is our local responsibility to seek outside funding to fill that funding gap or to use local funds. The second piece is we have been looking under every rock for additional funding. This last year alone, we applied for 2 additional federal grants. We were very successful in receiving the Builds or RAISE grant in 2024. It took us a while to receive approval after the new administration was in place, but we have received a draft agreement and we're working to complete that. Maybe I was talking too much. Okay. But hopefully that answers your question. This is just one scenario for if it was to be rely on Measure D funding, we will continue to seek outside funding sources. We have been very successful. The city of Santa Cruz submitted a grant for Safe Streets for All program, 20 million, I believe it is, 20.5 for segments 8 and 9, and we'll learn about that in December. That does require a local match, and I think we'll be hearing more about that in the next couple months through Measure D programming, potentially a consolidated grant program. But we are seeking outside funding sources, and we've been successful, but we have limited options.
And I'd like to just add for perspective, we came to the commission a little over a year ago to kind of disclose the fact that these projects are over budget and that we are in need of getting the costs under control. We did the value engineering. We applied for the grants. We're getting to the point now that we don't have the luxury of time and multiple cycles of grants to pursue. So I would just, to manage expectations, staff can't, may not be able to just go out and try to find $72 million or, of that magnitude. It's to the point where we're running out of time, and we're very fortunate to have gotten what we have currently. In fact, the RAISE grant that Grace mentioned, we were very fortunate to have won that grant. Those programs are highly competitive. And so just to provide a little bit of perspective of timing and to manage expectations, that there's very few options at this point to go find additional money.
And just wanted to add one other point of clarification, that the request for the construction allocation is the June 2027 timeframe. You don't have to begin construction at that time, but that's what the grant application requires, or that grant cycle requires for seeking the allocation, just because I know we have lots of members of the public who pay very close attention to these details. And then there are opportunities to return to the California Transportation Commission for extensions, but those are all subject to the California Transportation Commission. If you've been noticing noticing the current active transportation program cycle is much smaller in terms of available funding than the cycle in which we were awarded. So we were at the right place at the right time, but there's certainly a lot of projects out there that I'm sure the California Transportation Commission also wants to fund and has limited funding. So all of those actions would be subject to the California Transportation Commission approval.
Commissioner Clark.
Good morning. Thank you for that presentation and the information. It's a big pill to swallow there. Just a couple questions for you. So, and this kind of piggybacks on the last thing we were talking about, but if we were to scale back our design or our scope for going forward, how might that affect our current grants and for the affected segments in this proposed plan?
For the California Active Transportation Program, we'd need to request a scope change. That could very likely require approval from the California Transportation Commission. It's unclear if it would be considered a minor scope change through staff or would be the California Transportation Commission overall. I'm still working through the details for the federal grant since we don't have the agreement, so I could return with information about how that scope might be impacted.
Okay. And then looking at our graphs here, and thank you for those. I love the picture that it presents. But if I'm reading this correctly, is there an assumption that there's no more capital cost after 3031? And everything is going towards either project maintenance or debt service?
That's what this third chart shows, is that, yes, we would not have new capacity or very limited capacity.
Unless we have a bake sale or something. Yeah, okay. And then,
and I do like to point out that, in a way, as your interim director, Mitch Weiss, would say, we are a victim of our own success. We are advancing these projects ahead of time because we've been so successful. So it can look like a very difficult pill to swallow, but it is because we're bringing these public benefits sooner.
And just to refresh my recollection, what is the total capacity as we understand it now today of Measure D and active transportation? If that's a fair question to ask.
Yeah, 174 million is what we presented previously. Melissa, do you have an update for the Measure D active transportation program?
A total capacity project-wise, including these projects.
The total revenues, I think, is the question for the program.
What's our revenue capacity?
Right. I can pull it up. I don't have it.
I think it's around, I'm pretty sure it's around 175 million. But we do update it every year.
Yeah, I think previously you presented 174. As I was adding up the anticipated longer-term programming constraint, that came to 164. So I'm wondering if there is, if there's which one of those numbers is more closely correct? And then the follow-up to that, of course, is, well, what have we obligated up to this point? So we know how much bandwidth we have left. And again, if that's not something you have readily
we do have that. So what we've assumed here is that we've obligated about 40 million.
Okay.
Yesenia, if you could go back 2 slides. There you go. That's the current programmed amounts right there.
And these are great questions, and we can make sure to hit on those points when we come back as part of the November Measure D 5-year plan update, if there's any updates or corrections we need to make on those.
Okay, and yeah, that's it for my questions, but when my fellow commissioners are done, I do have a motion I'm prepared to put forward.
Thank you. I have one question. So what, we're talking about overruns, but how much the current cost from 8 through 11? Just the current cost, because we're talking about 72 overruns, but what is the current cost of segments 8 through 11?
That's the prior for
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Rob Tidmore with the County of Santa Cruz. I'm the project manager for segments 10, 11. I think the question is, what is the total cost for segments 8 through 11?
Yes.
So segments 10 and 11, the total cost is $137 million, and segments 8 and 9 is $88 million.
And how much grants have we received in total between those two, 8 through 11?
Between those two projects, $120 million.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else have any questions? Commissioner Schifrin.
I want to follow up on that. I misunderstood your question, and since a different question was answered, I'm going to ask the question I thought you were going to ask, which is how much money has been spent thus far for segments 8 through 11? And if the commission does not construct those projects, would it be on the hook for returning the money that is as a result of using the grants? I mean, because we've already spent a big chunk of money doing the work for those segments. So I'm just wondering how much that is.
Yeah, correct. So I'll speak for 10 and 11, and then I'll let Matt Starkey speak for 8 and 9. So for 10 and 11, we've spent about $4.2 million or so. The vast majority of that has been local Measure D funding for the preliminary design and environmental review for the project. We are now, working through some of the first pocket of ATP funding for final design, but we've spent probably, I don't know the exact number right now, but $200,000 or $300,000 so far.
Thank you.
Yep. Oh, and then the follow-up there was, would we be on the hook to return that? And so, of course, with the Measure D funding, no. With the design of the project, the feedback we got from Caltrans is that the design is, you finish the design.
In case you didn't hear that, he said that, because the microphone cut out, that we would not be on the hook to pay back design money to the state.
And then for segments 8 and 9, we've just been spending our money on the planning and planning design phases, and that's about just under $5 million. Just under $5 million? Correct. How much is ATP? Yeah, that's all. Okay.
Any other questions? Commissioner.
I'm Director.
Okay,
I have a quick
Commissioner
question.
Zerpa, I'm sorry.
Do we have any contingency built into this budget for litigation? Because we have several, right? We have some suits that are already pending. We have more likely anticipated. I know this is a closed session issue, but I'm just curious, is there any money built into this?
For the segments 8 through 11 project costs funded by the state and federal funds, there's not a funding contingency for litigation for that. RTC could elect to program Measure D funding for those costs.
Okay. It's clear to me that we cannot afford. This is not feasible. I wish it were. And I want to thank all of the RTC staff. I got to know Riley Gerbrant. We drove around for hours together down in Southern California. Very earnest, very hardworking, very committed to delivering a project, just like Sarah is, and Grace, and everyone else who's worked really hard. I don't think this is feasible for our county, however, and I regret to say that. And I think, Steve, you might have a motion.
I do. I think there was another question.
Then we're going to go out to the public. Then we're going to go to the Commissioner Ritter.
Thank you, RTC staff. So as you guys know, I'm new here, right? I'm figuring things out as I go. Commissioner DeSerpa, I feel like you kind of took my question out of my mouth, which is, it sounds like maybe we don't have enough money to do this, and our priority is to figure out how to not lose the grant funding that we've gotten. So maybe we need to come up with some solutions. Thank you.
Seeing no others, is anybody online? Commissioner? Questions? No? Then I'm going to go out to the public.
Hi, Brian from Trail Now. We have a written recommendation, which answers the mail, which is go with the optional interim trail. Staff should already have known what CTC's response would be, which would be a minor adjustment. They should have already known that. This plan is a financial disaster for our community. And you know what happens? Watsonville, you guys get nothing. South County, we get nothing. All the money, you won't even be able to go get additional funding because you won't have any matching funds. Santa Cruz is over there trying to figure out, hey, how can we use our money? You're losing out. Don't let them do this to South County. If they go and do this, you lose. That should be the message. Commissioner Ritter is actually correct. We need to figure out how not to lose that grant. Don't lose the grant. And the only way is to go with the interim trail. We already have an EIR on it. We have everything. And I've spoken to the CTC. It can be shifted.
Thank you.
Thank you, directors. The cost to build anything, including a fully ADA-compliant trail, will continue to increase due to inflation and tariffs. We recommend that the RTC prioritize building the trail as soon as possible, using resources including the credit, the bonds, consolidated block grants. So please approve this item to move forward. Rail banking could be an extremely lengthy and far more costly path, which requires adverse abandonment and is not looked favorably upon by the Surface Transportation Board and is unlikely to be approved. Rail banking could lead to another decade of the trail not being built. Please stick to the plan and work on this. This is the cheapest, fastest path. We owe Roaring Camp a big thank you. They made it possible for our community to own the rail line. And thank you for the $9 million that they've contributed to this, which was not included in the report. And I also would like to invite Sonoma Marin. I hope the folks here will invite Sonoma Marin to give a presentation as they built 50 miles of functioning trail, 27 bridges, and an adjacent trail. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Montesino and Commissioners. Matt Farrell speaking for Friends of the Rail and Trail. We want to speak in support of the staff recommendation, and we support moving forward with looking at strategies to maintain the grant funding that's been awarded on this project, which, as we understand it, would include an option like such as a line of credit to help move through this stage of moving this project forward. We also support additional cost savings reduction, and we do not support rail banking. It is not proven to be feasible, and there'll be resistance. It will divide our community, and oftentimes it ends up in similar costs for such a project.
Thank you.
Hi, Sally Arnold. I want to just appreciate what Grace said. I felt she really put things in perspective, talking about bringing public benefits to us sooner means we're sort of a victim of our own success. For someone like me who's really eager to see the trail built, and as happy as I am to see the sections on the west side already in use, it always feels like it's taking forever. But I now understand that we're actually on an accelerated plan based on Measure D, which is really good news for us. And, financing public projects is not an unusual thing. Commissioner Alternate Ritter asked we need a solution. I think the staff has presented you with a solution. There's a lot of financing options available. That's pretty common procedure. And I think it makes sense. You can pay for the projects in today's dollars because every delay just makes it more expensive. So I hope you'll proceed with the staff recommendation, and thank you so much for bringing us these successful, super popular projects.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Still Matt Starkey, Transportation Manager. I know what we've heard today is tough to take as we're trying to deliver these projects. But I think what's a good reminder is our rail trail segment 7 Phase 2 that we opened in May, and the really positive experience we had with the community. We had 400 kids from Bayview Elementary School. We had Roaring Camp with their train there. It reminded me of why we do these big transportation projects. They really exhibit joy in the community. I think with that, I'd like to reinforce some of the staff recommendation here. Looking at the scopes of these projects and considering the financial needs that we have will be a really important step for us to all work on together so that we can deliver those benefits to our community. Thank you.
Morning, Chair and Commissioners. Again, Rob Tidmore, Project Manager for segments 10 and 11. The county is committed to partnering with the RTC and the City of Capitola to deliver really the transformational Coastal Rail Trail segments 10 and 11 project. Will greatly improve safety, will connect our community, and will change how people move around our county. The project is now at a critical juncture. We need additional funding to complete design in early 2026, and we do not have enough funding to complete the project as currently designed, despite what we've noted as incredible success in achieving grant funding so far. I support staff's recommendation to find ways to deliver the segments 10 and 11 project, including changes to the scope if necessary. We need clear direction from the RTC to keep the project moving forward and to meet grant deadlines. And we appreciate staff and your support for this project, and we look forward to completing the project together. Thank you.
Lowell Hurst, South County resident. As you saw in the State Park Bay Porter agenda item, there's a lot of lessons to be learned. There's a lot of lessons that can be fixed and anticipated. You know, having this is not just about money. This is about the real human needs of our community. And to have a Cadillac Path trail in the north and leaving us with a goat path in the south is unacceptable. So connect us here in the south to the job center in the north. Don't leave the South County behind. Stick with the plan and accept the staff recommendations, and thank you.
Thank you. See no one here. Anybody online?
Yes. Kevin McGuire?
Hello.
We can hear you.
Commissioners, we should not borrow, and we must recognize the rail project is not feasible. Staff's own report shows $72 million shortfall for segments 8 through 11 with costs climbing fast. Near-term borrowing jumped from $12.5 million to $23 million, and long-term needs reached $92 million. Yet Measure D capacity tops out at only $55 million. The math doesn't add up. Voters rejected a bond for fire stations last year, and we won't approve the highest sales tax in the nation for a train that will never come. The reality is we already have CTC funds, ATP grants, and Measure D allocated to complete the trail today. We should not risk losing ATP funding. We can pivot directly to the interim trail, fully eligible under CTC and ATP recreational trail programs. The interim trail is already reviewed by the EIR and ready to deliver benefits without debt. We have the money today to finish the whole trail at a fraction of the cost. The vision of the Monterey-based Scenic Sanctuary Trail by Sam Farr. We can have a world-class trail. In Capitola, RTC and Riley admitted that the trail would need to be demolished and rebuilt 20 years for a station and a passing lane. Yet city code keeps the trail in the rail, not on our streets. Friends of Port said the both would fit, the rail and the trail. They won't. The writing's on the wall. So we need to reject the borrowing and move forward with the interim trail that we can build now.
Thank you.
Saladin Sale?
Saladin Sale. I live in Santa Cruz. I want to thank Sarah Christensen and her team for their skill, creativity, and resilience as they find ways to improve the lives of present and future residents of our county. Last week, I walked the rail corridor north from Wilder Ranch towards Davenport to see what progress is being made with the North Coast segment of the rail trail. I was delighted. We were able to walk on an unfinished but contiguous wide trail next to the tracks for miles and ran out of time before running out of trail. With the recent opening of Chitoni Coast Dairies, this is going to be a tremendous addition to our county. These are uncertain and increasingly worrisome times in our nation, but I believe it's in times like these that investments reflecting belief in a better future are most important. We shouldn't forget that it was during the dark days of the 1930s Great Depression that Americans found ways to construct lasting public projects that we still enjoy to this day. Our zero-emission passenger rail and trail is such a project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean Brocklebank?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm a Live Oak resident. I look forward to the motion your commission is likely to hear to consider shortly. I also would like to reiterate everything that the speaker, Kevin McGuire, said before. It's in the transcript. He spoke for me. I do not support the multi-billion-dollar Rail plus Trail project. I do support an interim trail only down the center of the corridor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cami Corvin?
Would you copy this?
Hi there. Hopefully you can hear me okay. My name is Cami Corvin. I don't know why we're even having this conversation. The amount of money required to complete the scope is excessive. And as Ms. DeSerpa had pointed out, even more would be needed. There is no funding allocated for litigation in segments 8 through 11, and litigation is inevitable when low-income seniors are threatened with losing their homes. So on top of that, the community is being asked to absorb a 2% tax increase possibly, and this increase simply cannot be afforded by many in this county. We're having issues with low-income housing, we're having issues with jobs. The answer should be quite obvious with this. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
You have no other speakers.
So Commissioner Clark and then Schifrin.
Well, I have a motion I'm prepared to bring forward, Mr. Chair, and my motion is the following. So I would move to authorize staff to work with Coastal Rail Trail project sponsors and funding partners on strategies to deliver the Coastal Rail Trail segments 8 through 11 within available funding resources and to bring cost and scope in line with available funds to complete the projects. And further, direct staff to work with municipal advisors, KNN Public Finance, to initiate the process for financing and return to the commission with a financing plan for consideration to address both the previously programmed expenditures and a separate plan to address possible future expenditures. And finally, further direct staff to bring forward a public discussion on rail banking, including its applicability and feasibility for the Santa Cruz Branch Rail Line. And that's my motion.
I'll second.
So it's been first and second. Commissioner Schifrin.
Well, I might be willing to support part of that motion, but not the whole motion. I want to say first, respond to the concern about an interim trail, because we keep hearing about it as if it can be built the day after tomorrow. And I think it's important to get it clear that the commission does not have the legal authority to build the trail. That's called the interim trail. The opponents spoke about rail banking, but it isn't really what we're really talking about. Before an interim trail could even be considered, the commission would have to agree to adversely abandon the freight easement that legally exists on the line. That is a process. The biggest proponents say it will take 6 months. We know that Roaring Camp opposes it. There are a lot of community advocates that oppose it. It could take 2 years, it could take 5 years, and it's not even clear that it's going to happen. The grants, the $120 million in grants, will run out in 2027. So to do this, I'm happy to have a discussion about rail banking, but I think it's important to recognize the consequence of doing that. And I think that the concern, and the reason I won't support the motion, is that the motion is really saying to me that there never will be a trail in the Mid-County area. The concern that, well, Santa Cruz got this great trail and we're just abandoning the Mid-County and South County. It is the Mid-County and South County and others who want to abandon, from my perspective, the Mid-County area, because the only way we're going to get a trail is if if we can find the additional money to construct it. And it's not going to be easy, But the staff recommendation is, let's try to find it. If we adopt the motion to have to stay within the existing funding, we've already been told that the existing funding is insufficient to build the trail. So it's really just another way of saying we're not going to have a trail. And if the representatives of the Mid-County don't want to have a trail, and if a majority of the commission will support that, then there won't be a trail, not only in Mid-County, there won't be a trail in South County either. Because if we don't provide a trail through the population center, which is the Mid-County area, where can we ever expect to get grant money to build a trail with or without, either on the rail line or not on the rail line? The commission's going to need outside funding, and it's not going to be available. So I would like to make a substitute motion that we approve the staff recommendations with the additional direction that staff contact our elected state and federal representatives, as well as the CTC, and appeal for the necessary additional funding to complete the construction as proposed of segments 8 through 11.
Second. So that's been first and second. So any other discussion? We're going to go out.
I think I need to hear that repeated, so everyone's real clear.
Shall I repeat the motion?
Yeah, I know it's complicated.
Glad to. So the motion is to approve the staff recommendation. Let me read what it is, in case you don't have it in front of you. Number one is to accept the information on project cost estimates of the coastal rail trail projects under development. Number two, direct staff to work with the coastal rail trail project sponsors and funding partners on strategies to reduce costs and deliver coastal rail trail segments 8 through 11, which could include modifications to the scope of the project. Number three, authorize the executive director to initiate the process for the financing needed to secure additional resources for Measure D active transportation category to cover approved project costs and programming, which includes securing and entering into an agreement for bond counsel services, and return to the commission with a financing plan for consideration. And then I added an added direction that the staff contact our state and federal elected officials and the CTC to appeal for the additional construction or project funding needed to bring the projects, the rail trail segments 8 through 11 into, as proposed, to completion. That's the motion.
And it's been second, correct, by Commissioner Keeley.
Other
questions?
Can we ask questions?
Yeah, of course.
In the current budget, in the pots of money that we currently have, do we have enough money to build out the trail only right now? I understand it needs to be redesigned, et cetera, but do you think that we have that now?
I will take that one. Because the project scope currently is, as designed, is the ultimate trail, we don't have the cost estimates for the interim trail because the designs haven't advanced past the environmental analysis. So we don't actually know, but we might be able to pull together some information and bring it back to the commission if that's desired.
Certainly desired. Here's Rob coming up to the mic.
Yeah, just to add to that a little bit, yeah, Sarah's correct. With the last cost estimate we got for the interim trail was in 2023. So obviously that is outdated and needs to be increased. But just generally speaking, rough order of magnitude, I think, given additional escalation that we're seeing now and bid unit increases, unit cost increases from the 2023 estimate for the ultimate trail versus what we're seeing now, I think it's relatively safe to say that we could afford the interim trail within the existing funding that we have right now for the project.
Okay.
But we would need to confirm that.
Okay.
Yeah, Grace reminded me that I need to say, assuming CTC approval of scope change, of course,
Sure,
but your
right.
question was just about funding, yeah.
Sure. So there, yes, there would have to be permission for scope change, et cetera. There, aside from adverse abandonment, are there other ways to push forward to find a solution?
So
That's, I mean, maybe that's for the next meeting, frankly, is because then we can have like an open discussion about rail banking and what it is, what it affords, what the options are.
right,
So I don't know if what I just asked is part of that discussion or if you can answer that now.
so so as we're discussing the interim trail, just want to make sure we're all aware, subject to approvals by the funding partners as well as the completion of rail banking would have to also happen in order to build the interim trail, so just to be clear. But the rail banking process begins with the initiation of abandonment of the freight easement. And that, the community and some of the commissioners are talking about adverse abandonment. That's one way of the process to begin, but the initiation of abandonment could be done by the railroad operator or by another party who could, force the abandonment, essentially. But
So it doesn't have to be adverse.
It doesn't have to be.
Well, if I can add to that
Yeah.
a bit.
Thanks, Steve.
The fact that you would take the Santa Cruz branch line out of service would disconnect it from the Roaring Camp line. And so there is an adverse abandonment issue that is going to come into play under any scenario that you're talking about, absent a voluntary agreement between all of the parties. So in theory, if you had an agreement with the common carrier, which right now is Progressive on our line and is Roaring Camp on their line. So if all of the parties agreed, you wouldn't have adverse abandonment. But if they don't all agree, then rail banking, or really it would have to ultimately be rail banking if it's just the interim trail being there on a longer term basis, then under those scenarios, you're going to have to deal with the fact that Roaring Camp could object to their line becoming a stranded segment, because that's ultimately what the issue is.
Could I
Commissioner
So let me express a willingness, given that two commissioners have talked about rail banking. I think it's not on the agenda today. I'm willing to add to the motion that we get a report at our December meeting when we're going to be talking about the future of rail, since rail banking really has to do with the future of rail, that we get a report on rail banking and the commission has the opportunity to decide whether it wants to go forward with rail banking. It means we're abandoning any further work on passenger rail for the foreseeable future anyway. But I think, there are commissioners who feel that that's something that should be considered. It's been talked about by members of the public for a long time. I don't support it, but I think the commission should hear about it and also hear from the public about what the public thinks about rail banking. Because it's one thing to sit here and talk about what I think or what other commissioners think. But the last time this was before the commission, we heard from lots of members of the public who had real concerns about rail banking and essentially the abandonment of rail for the foreseeable future. So if it's acceptable to the second, the motion's second, I would add to the motion that we receive a report at our December meeting when we consider the rail study on rail banking. And so the commission will have the opportunity to decide whether it wants to pursue rail banking or not. Is it acceptable?
Acceptable.
That's essentially what my motion is it's your motion, and that's exactly why I added the provision that we direct staff to bring forward a public discussion on rail banking, because there is a lot of not even half-baked information out there, and I think it would be important to understand it and understand how it affects any future plans that we make and how it affects, how do we want to build this trail?
That was the portion of your motion that I approved of, and I'm willing to add to the motion that I made. But I think the rest of it didn't really represent what the staff recommendation was, and that's what I think is worth supporting. With the addition that we really put some pressure on our elected state and federal representatives.
I think really the only substantive difference there is that I've asked for a separate plan to address future cost overruns. So tell us what a financing plan would be to address what we have on the table right now, right? And then also give us a separate one for what those future ones might be. And I think that's really the only area where I've strayed from what the staff recommendation is. So if we're in agreement on the rail banking, I don't understand the need for the alternate.
Chair,
motion.
there are two motions on the floor. Can we move forward? I think we're all clear on what the motions are.
I don't think so, because I'm not clear. Could you repeat the first motion so I can get some clarity?
There's only one motion on the floor. That's the substitute motion.
Okay.
If the substitute motion fails, then it goes back to the original motion. If the substitute motion passes, then the original motion goes away. So we only have one motion.
So currently, we only have one motion. So everybody clear?
Steve, our attorney will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think
that's correct. The substitute motion is the motion that is before the commission right now, because the motion was made and there was a second to it. So it takes precedence. You vote on that motion first. If it fails, you go to the original motion.
I'm sorry, I have another question. Which I don't know if this would be part of the discussion to be brought forward, but I am very interested in freight continuing in the Watsonville area and to have a Pajaro station to connect our county to the main, like Amtrak line, et cetera. I think that is where our focus should be. So could that be part of the discussion, or do I need to make an amendment?
So
motion. Because
I
I think that's
I want
part
to stay
of the
within the
discussion.
scope of the agenda item that the commission has before it today.
Okay.
And so, but the rail banking doesn't have to mean the entirety of the Santa Cruz branch line. It is possible that you rail bank a portion of it. That assumes the commission is interested in further considering rail banking, but it does not require that you rail bank the entirety of the line. So the area that is currently served in Watsonville and in that area could continue to be served, or any segment that the commission did not consider rail banking on could be retained and still remain connected to the main line, the main system.
Okay, great. I think if it can be included about what the process is for what, Steve, for what you just talked about in the discussion, that would be helpful.
The options would be brought forward as part of any discussion of rail banking, so that the commission has full information on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other?
Nope.
Oh, Commissioner Martinez.
Yeah, thank you. And just a few comments. I'm going to be supporting the substitute motion, the motion on the floor. I'm seeing that today's discussion, what's before us is our commitment to the Coastal Rail Trail and our commitment to the segments that we've already committed to, right? And so I am interested in seeing what options the RTC has and our community has to bring those segments forward. And so, we've had discussion with the commission since I've been on it about borrowing against Measure D. That's because of the timing of the tax measure versus when we're delivering projects. It is testament to our success to be delivering the Coastal Rail Trail and the pace that we need to do this borrowing. So I am supportive of that. I know that we're getting outside the scope of this agenda item when we bring forward things like an interim trail, which I've never seen a plan for, rail banking, which isn't on today's agenda. I'm happy to support that added to the agenda item, but would love to see that really just taken to, another standalone agenda item so we can discuss rail and the future where it belongs. Because today we're talking about a trail that we've all agree we want to have happen, we've all committed to, we've seen the benefits in North County where it's already occurred, and I think we are all committed to this trail. So I'm supportive of the staff recommendations that came forward. I'm supportive to a few adjustments so we can learn more as a commission, and I really want to keep this project moving forward so we can get the trail that our community deserves.
I'd like to say, I'm tentatively supportive because I'm very concerned about the future. Like Commissioner Schifrin said, we have to build it to get to South County and Watsonville. But we've seen, in my area, we've seen, just a piece built of 18, which is, I call it a trail to nowhere, because it's in the middle of nowhere. And I'm very concerned about that. And, money, it is all about money. And the allocation of money has not come to Watsonville for a lot of years. I mean, last December or November, I put a motion to put in place $3 million. Where is that in that scope? I didn't see it. So like I said, I'm very concerned about the future years, what the potential of our trail segments for South County are. And it's a really heartburn to invest, but I agree with Commissioner Martinez. We've committed. We need to do this, and it's where the population is. I was here at the commission where we bought the rail line. I fully extended my commissioner's concerns. Like, where it's mostly going to be used is where the population is. So with that, I'm going to be supporting of the motion.
So really quick, I want to echo my both colleagues' comments and reiterate Commissioner Montesino's about, and this is for our staff and planners and Sarah, our director. We would like to see some sort of projects happen in South County as well. You look at the maps, there's nothing really on below Larkin Valley or anything planned. So it'd be good if we can begin the project. And with that, I would like to call the question.
And with it, can you call the question? Well, one more comment.
Yeah, thank you. Andy, I have a friendly amendment, actually. So your or Commissioner Schifrin, apologies. Your motion indicated December for returning with a conversation about rail banking. Can we say as soon as possible? I know that time is of the essence.
The reason I'm suggesting, or the motion suggested December, is that that's when the rail feasibility study is going to come before the commission. And at that point, the commission's going to need to decide, are we going to go forward with this, trying to find funding for the next step of rail, passenger rail, or are we not? And if we're not, are we going to just wait, or are we going to go in a completely different direction? And the completely different direction is rail banking. And it seems to me it's logical to sort of have them all there at the same time. So it doesn't make sense to decide, from my perspective, to go forward before then with a decision on rail banking when we haven't really seen the final rail feasibility study. On the other hand, it doesn't make sense to approve the rail feasibility study and decide on the next step if there's a commission majority that wants to do rail banking. So I think that's why I think it makes sense to do them both at the same time. And since the feasibility study is coming in December, and if the report actually comes out in early October or sometime in October, well, the public and the commissioners will have time to really hopefully absorb it so that when it is before the commission in December, we can be talking about it intelligently, as intelligently as at least I'm able to talk about it. And so that's why I would like to just sort of keep that date as having them both at the December meeting.
I understand that. Again, I understand there are some timeline concerns, and, getting things done as soon as possible is time is of the essence, like I said. I understand what you're saying, so I rescind that, but just wanted to put that out there. I do have one additional question. Commissioner Clark, your original motion included direction for a scope change, and that is not included, it sounds like, in the substitute motion. Is that intentional? Did we want to consider including that as well?
Yeah, thank you for that.
Certainly.
No, my original motion was to bring cost and scope in line with available funds to complete the project. Now, if that means that we opt to finance, that increases our available funds.
Right.
And so then we would then scope the project as such. And so that's the intent of my motion, is to, I think, bring an additional degree of accountability from a financial standpoint. And then also, too, to present us with a couple of different plans what do we have on the table now? What do we have to pay for in finance? What might we have to finance in the future? And we can make those decisions around scope at that point.
Thank you, but we're going to go back to just that question. Then if it fails, then we'll discuss it more. So take roll call for the vote.
Commissioner Jensen?
No.
Commissioner Keeley?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
No.
Commissioner Montesino?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Schifrin?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSerpa?
No.
Commissioner Ritter?
No.
Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner Leonor?
Yes.
Commissioner Quiroz Carter?
Aye.
Okay, so that's 7 yes and 4 no's.
So motion passes. With that, we're going to go on to closed session item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have 2 items on closed session. One matter is related to initiation of litigation, and the other one is a labor negotiations matter. And we're requesting that we do labor negotiations first.
Thank you. Anybody like to weigh in and stuff under closed session? If it's under closed, item under closed session, you're welcome to come forward.
So 13 years in without funds, the rail project is in default. And a female representative of RTC told my friend Roxanne that if she stood strong on her property, she would be arrested.
Is this under 29 or 30 on the closed session?
I don't know what closed session is, guys.
Then,
can I speak or not? Should I wait?
if it's not under those 2 items, you cannot.
Should I come back another time?
Yes.
Okay, stop cutting trees.
Thank you.
Sir, if I might recommend, at the beginning of our RTC, at the beginning of our commission meetings, we have open oral communications for any item that you want to address us on, and that'd be the best time for those comments. Thank you.
Whether we're going to close up and we're not due to report anything else?
We are not anticipating a reportable action today.
Thank you. With that,